Welcome back, everybody, to the PPL. I'm Aggro. I can't believe I'm sitting right next to Dave Olson. Guys.
Unreal.
Unbelievable. What a turn of events. This has become, Dave, a big day of casting for you.
How am I ever going to have a bad day when right before I start, I'm just getting gassed up every single time?
You can't do it. I don't know. That's just what I'm here to do. I knew it was going to be 2 tough sets, and I had to be there for you.
But what a fun 2 sets to have.
Seriously.
I mean, honestly, across the board, 7 games, 6 games. Honestly, a little surprising that the second one went 6 games, but it did, and maybe some more interesting here in Game 3.
Hey, maybe. Certainly a potential. By the way, you guys at home, you use Discord. It's the year 2019. Everybody does. So get your Paladin stuff there. Have to make sure you get that locked into your Discord server. All the info you can find on the website and all that good stuff. But Dave, Spacestation, they come out at the beginning of the day, lose a close one.
Yep.
4-3.
They do.
Now the Renegades are the poor souls standing in front of an angry Space Station team.
Yeah, this is actually, it was 2 weeks ago, I guess, we saw Space Station have a 7-game first set and then later in the day have another set. Same exact structure as we have today, except they won the last time we saw them, their 7-game set. This time they lost. I still think on paper you have to lean Space Station, but the difference is we've seen that momentum, a winning momentum from having one game in the day can truly be beneficial, but we haven't seen what happens. You lose a game and then try to bounce back from that later in the day. You know, if mentally they're just drained, that tilts things a little bit more even.
It definitely can. Maybe the Renegades can take advantage of that here. I mean, this is a team at the bottom of the PPL right now, but they've had flashes in the pan, right?
Yes.
I mean, moments where they look like they can compete at the top end.
And notably, I like to harp on it. It was really 2 or 3 weeks ago. I don't remember exactly, but they lose 4-0 to NIP. I mean, this is literally a top versus bottom matchup. They lose 4-0, but within that, 2 or 3 of those games go 4-3. I mean, like you said, that there are these moments where they look so close to winning, but just haven't been able to put it together. And then over the last couple of weeks, maybe trend back to where they used to be. We saw Shadow a minute ago. And that's a guy who in Vocal and Shadow, these 2 guys, it seems that even if they're in a losing matchup, they lose 4-0, they're still going crazy. 90,000 average damage is still wild, 2.0 KDA. And then you look at the slash, 11 and 50 win-loss, still having great stats. These 2 guys need to go big today. And against maybe a bit of a staggered SSG, they have a very good chance of doing it.
Certainly on the table for them in Vocal. I mean, there's been so much play today of Leon, Tyra. I mean, those 2 picks have really dominated the DPS space today. We've seen a lot of Cassie as per usual, but I feel like Cassie's had a lower average impact than those 2 last picks that I mentioned.
No, I think that's entirely fair. And actually, I look at in Vocal on Leon, as you mentioned, and then as well as this Tyra. She's really started to make her way back into the meta, and he plays it so well. Kind of Ruckus Jr. or Ruckus. No, maybe that's Vivian. That's Ruckus Jr. Either way, the Crossfire is just this right here is really what he'll look to do. Stone keeps a great map for Tyra, and Invocal's a great player to play that Tyra, and he's a stud. At the end of the day, the guy is a great Paladins player, and they're going to lean on him heavily to really try to find some footing in this matchup.
They definitely need to. I mean, the Renegades, as we mentioned, cannot make it to the midseason invitational, so that's not what they're playing for. But records carry over to Phase 2, so you know that they've got to get these wins where they can. Let's head to the Renegades booth right now and take a listen to how they're feeling before the match.
Yeah, we're here with Powtech, and I know you guys actually got a nice little week off last week, and I know a lot of the players were looking forward to that. So I just want to know, how are you feeling coming into this week?
Well rested. Everyone sort of got a little sick of the hotel, so it was nice to have everyone reset back home.
So go back, I guess, 3 weeks. Really, really good set against an IP. 2 weeks, it was not the same performances that we had seen the week prior. There were still a lot of solid moments, but then you get the week off, you come back in. Which Renegades are we expecting to see today?
We've changed up some more stuff. I mean, we're always testing out stuff at this point, might as well. So hopefully we come in strong. We got a good game plan.
Awesome. And then I have one more question, because you're one of the teams that is not going to MSI, but you are looking towards split number 2, which is going to be the biggest thing. Today, SSG has already played. They're a little warmed up. For this set, hoping for a big win. Do you think that them being warmed up is going to affect things, or what are your eyes on?
I mean, we got a good strategy. We're really testing to see if it works out. So we feel pretty confident, and we're going to give them a showing.
I'm excited to see it. Thanks for your time, man. Good luck in your games, and we'll get back to the desk.
It's good to hear that the Renegades are feeling like they're feeling good today.
Yes.
I mean, they're locked in, but as Gore mentioned, Space Station's warmed up already.
Yep.
They might be a little angry after their loss at the beginning of the day. I mean, that's a scary spot to be in.
That's the question is it tired, dragging your feet, Space Station, we lost 7 games, or is it we should have won this morning, we're warmed up and angry, Space Station, that you're going up against? But I did like hearing what Powtek was saying about changing up some things, because at the end of the day, that's what you have to do. I mean, they've won a game that was way back in week 1, but just nothing has stuck since then. So just trying out new things, maybe throwing some stuff at the wall, seeing what sticks. I think that's exactly what this team needs to do at this point. So I think that's a smart mentality to have, because like Gore said, they're not going to MSI. These games are just trying to improve where they stand into the next split, because at the end of the day, between last and 5th, 6th, there's only 3-4 wins in there. So you start to get some momentum. You knock yourself up in the standings
easily. Yeah, no doubt about it. And it's a long phase 2 as well. I mean, phase 1,
That's right.
It can be a grind. Phase 2 the same way. So getting wins early on can certainly help you in that regard. In Space Station, they still have a lot to play for. They're still hunting for the number 2 seed. Still potential for a 3-way tie there with Envy and with Na'Vi, it is Na'Vi.
Na'Vi,
Yeah.
yep.
Those are the 3 that could potentially tie. Do you think that pressure might be weighing on them a little bit?
It's an interesting balance, I think, because it's like yes and no. I mean, obviously, at the end of the day, you want to be the highest seed possible going into MSI. At the end of the day, you play a lower-seeded team as a result. But from talking with a lot of the players and a lot of the coaches, the overwhelming idea is that, at the end of the day, seed 2, seed 3, it's not game-changing. You see Na'Vi, we'll see them tomorrow actually against NIP. Seed 2 could beat Seed 1 on any given day. I think the pressure is there just to improve their seeding, but at the end of the day, I don't think they're playing with way too much pressure. I don't think it's set. Seed 2 or bust at this point.
Sure. Certainly something that Space Station would like, but may not be the most important thing in their mind right now. Certainly looking to improve over their first set of the day, though. Let's head on over to Kresnik and see how he's feeling before their set against Renegades.
Oh yeah, now I'm here with Kresnik on the side of SSG, and I'm just going to keep this one truly simple. A couple weeks ago, you guys come in, you play 4 sets, you win 4 sets. The first one goes 7 games, much like today. This week, that's a little lighter. You only had to do the 2, but you're warmed up. Do you think it being a loss earlier is going to affect this set, or do you think the fact that you got 7 games is going to be better?
I think the loss will help us reset mentally, because we lost, we had that time in between, right? If it was one to the other, I think it'd be a lot worse. But since we had that little break time for Envy and Knights to play, I don't think the loss will affect us as much as it would have otherwise.
Get a little bit of lunch, get that refuel going. I saw Aries shaking his head. Doesn't seem too confident in himself.
Would you like to be interviewed, sir?
No, he's going to be coming through. I'm actually really interested to see this one, because the last time, again, it was 7 games, then you, 4-0, 4-1, 4-0. It was very, very solid for the rest of the week. Renegades has been this team right now that is hit or miss sometimes. They looked really, really good against NIP, and then the next week we all saw that, so we know what happened. So how do you feel they're going to perform today?
It's so hard to say with them. I mean, you said they're hit or miss, right? But you never know going in. They have these players that have this insane pop-off potential. They have these players that have LAN experience now, but at the end of the day, it's still a team game, right? And if they're here firing on all cylinders, if they have that energy, they're a different team than the Renegades we saw last week.
So here's a fun one. Terminus, yes or no, and why? For anyone who didn't hear, Sadak just screamed no Gore.
I really think he has a place. I really think he does. I think it's going to take a big specialist with him to make it work, someone who really puts the time in. And it's about, do you think the value you'll get from putting the time in with him, is that worth putting the time in? Will the return be as good as the output? I think he has a place against some grounded blasters. In some places. I know he struggles against Drogos if he can run Worm Jets, really good against Combustible, but it's really about finding the time in the right build. I think the Blast, Siphon, Regen build is the right way to do it.
Well, one day maybe he'll come through, and one day he'll find some wins.
One day, please.
And maybe it'll be you guys that bring it. I have a feeling it might not end up being today, but I have one more question. The meta that is kind of going on, I would say that you guys kind of pioneered it, but at the beginning of the split, NIP were really the ones kind of, I want to say driving things. They were the ones innovating. And Tyra started coming up through your picks, and then we got like Tyra Vivian and things like that. Do you think that that is going to help you today, or do you think Renegades are going to pull out something completely different?
That's a really, really good question because I have honestly no idea what they're going to do. You know, I mean, we haven't most teams don't scrim each other like the week before, and that's a lot. That's enough time to figure out what's going on. You know, they had plenty of time to adapt. I don't think it's something that you can't really plug and play into a lot of teams, into a lot of different players. You know, it's not like these characters are necessarily like, oh, like you have to play so much Maeve to be good with Maeve, but you know, you play Tyra. It all really comes down to positioning, and that stuff translates from person to person. I wouldn't be shocked if they brought it out today. I mean, I would expect them to. Obviously, but I think it's just about how well they protect those crazy damage dealers more than anything, and that's the question mark.
Well, awesome, man. Hopefully you'll have some good luck in your games. I'm excited to watch SSG for the second time today. Hopefully you are too. So let's go ahead and get back to the desk so we can get this set kicked off.
Man, SSG seemed to be ready to go. I mean, Kresnik's still talking up a storm about things that they might not even play here today, but that's what we like about them. I mean, this team seems to be in high spirits despite their earlier loss.
Yeah, I think there's two kind of takeaways in my mind from that. One, that they're confident still in the meta that they bring. You know, the Tyra Vivian works on Ares, works on FRZ as well. And then on the flip side, and it's kind of on the back of what Powtek said in the Renegades interview, is that you can't really nail down what the Renegades are going to bring because to be honest, nothing's worked, so you got to change some stuff up, and that's maybe to their advantage.
Certainly a lot to watch out for here if you're Space Station Gaming and for the Renegades. In fact, right before we get to this set, we're going to have to go to a quick break as we get everything ready, but stay tuned. We'll be right back with the Paladins Premier League.
For the record. For the record. For the record. Been a little too nice to y'all. Now I gotta up price on y'all. Snake eyes on dice for y'all. Shoulders on ice for y'all. 8-6 all the hate. I won't get involved today. Got lost in the ball and A's. I'm flipping the bars. I'm flipping the. On record, off record. I still count wins when they got it. On record, off record. I let them take advantage. I was wildin'. On record, off record deals. Tell them talk to Colin for the quote. On record, off record. I still want to act, not the ghost. For the record, I'm done trying to make y'all comfortable. For the record, you ain't trying to grow, then it's done for you. For the record, lab on me going all the way. For the record, ain't trying to link no time to waste. Running through it with the young influence, adolescent presence, I'm succumbing to it. I've been giving yeses when I shouldn't do it. I complete ejected, but the moves elusive and I'm barely moving, but I'm still gon' boost them. I can't work on winners when I know you're losing, so I work the winners and they throw the deuces. Guess I had to pivot, shooting no bazookas for the facts. I need racks, paper cash, fuck a tax, that's a joke. Tell them laugh, Uncle Sam, fuck out the bag. Brody plot, but get a whack. Contract, give me the max. I got laugh on my back. You ain't that, then it's raps. Whoa, whoa, whoa. For the record, I'm done trying to make y'all comfortable. For the record, you ain't trying to grow, then it's done for you. For the record, lab on me going all the way. For the record, ain't trying to link no time to waste. Facts, I need racks, paper cash, fuck a tax, that's a joke. Tell them laugh, Uncle Sam, fuck out the bag. Brody plot, but get a whack. Contract, give me the max. I got laugh on my back. You ain't that, then it's raps. Whoa, whoa, whoa. For the record, I'm done trying to make y'all comfortable. For the record, you ain't trying to grow, then it's done for you.
Welcome back to the PPL, everybody. Aggro and Dolson, the dynamic duo, coming back at you again. But sorry for those delays, but we are just about ready to go now. Yep. With Space Station and the Renegades. Should be ready to see our map in just a moment. These two teams, Renegades cannot make it to the Midseason Invitational, but still certainly want to get some momentum rolling, as Ascension Peak will be our first map selection here. A map that we've seen played twice today already, I believe, in both of the sets we've seen.
And this is a comfortable map, I would say, for Space Station Gaming. They've done very well on this map traditionally. It caters into a lot of their play styles as well, whereas the Renegades, I wouldn't say they're bad on it, but they're sort of neither here nor there. I mean, this is what you look for out of a first map pick. One that you're comfortable on, one that the enemy team is not comfortable on, and I think we have that here. The draft will be interesting, though, because I think Invocal and Shadow, if they're playing well, they can hang with Ares and Freeze God. It's the frontline and sort of hybrid off-tank front lines that I look at. I mean, Rochelle and Sadak, I think if allowed to play very comfortable champions, could tilt this matchup with just frontline play alone. Hero and Moonchopper are going to have their hands full on the side of the Renegades today. And that's sort of where I look to be, not necessarily exploited, but looked at in both of these drafts.
Certainly could be an early Khan pick if Atlas is banned. That's exactly where Renegades are going to go. Sadak has been playing Khan every chance they get, and that's exactly where Space Station is going to go right away. Worth noting, by the way, that Space Station played Na'Vi on Ascension Peak. That was Game 7 that they did, and that was a loss for Space Station 4-3. But that's neither here nor there,
the frontline matchup is not helped very much when you have to go up against the Khan. And Inara Barak are two very safe matchups. Hero on the Inara, tried and true, comfortable on that champion. Won't necessarily blow you out of the water, but will do what Inara needs to do, especially on Ascension Peak. Those two statues on the point bodes pretty well for Inara, I would say. Barak on the opposite side, that's more in Moonchopper's wheelhouse, and that's not necessarily where my eyebrows are raised, because Barak's a very good champion and somebody that in the right hands can make a lot of his presence felt. It's matching up against the Khan of Sadak, where I mean, that's just such an advantage, I would say, on the side of the Khan. I think he can out-bully Barak, depending on how he builds. But the early advantage, at least in that frontline duel that I was talking about, goes the way of SSG. But at the end of the day, they're going to have a Fernando. Yeah, Fernando's really all that's left. So, Inara greater than Fernando, but, you know, that's sort of neither here nor there. But Eevee Genos, especially getting Freeze God on his Eevee, that's scary for me on the side of the Renegades.
Absolutely. You got to love to see those two picks for Space Station. Renegades going to try and double down on those point tanks with that Maldamba. Leon being hovered here as well. But I wonder, I mean, if you're Space Station, is there any consideration to going a Ruckus here and trying to do two kind of flex tanks instead?
Yeah, I think there could be. I think actually at the end of the day, this would, if there is a time to do it, this would be it, because
you win or you die.
you get down to brass tacks here, and all that's really left is Terminus, which they're not going to do. They tried it twice a few weeks ago and did not work out either time. So I think that he's sort of off the board. So yeah, if there's a time to bring out sort of that dual hybrid front line, it would be now. They're not going to do it. They're going to go for Nano just for a little extra staying power. Because like you said, the Damba stacked with Inara Barrick, that is greater staying power than you have on the opposite side. SSG need to win these fights quickly, especially with the Tyra, so double damage amp for the side of SSG. Renegades are going to be looking to sort of weather that and then come out on top on the opposite side.
Drogos could be the blaster of choice for them here. Bomb King still available, but might want that vertical mobility here on Ascension Peak more than anything else.
Yep.
But we saw Space Station do something pretty similar with Genos, Tyra, Eevee, or it was Maeve actually that they were doing it with before. But general thesis still the same. Damage amp, flanker, and it worked pretty well for them before.
Yeah.
I imagine that it might be the same here again.
Yeah, and I mean, even if you get, I mean, Genos Mark will likely go on to Eevee and Tyra, and obviously the frontliners need some healing as well. But just the hunting party, even if Eevee doesn't have that Astral Mark from the Genos for a period of time, the hunting party mark on any of the champions on the side of Renegades, that's enough to get them blown up by an Eevee. So this is really a can Invocal deal with the mobility of Freeze God on the opposite side? If he is, this could be good for the Renegades. If not, could roll out of control.
Tough task for the Renegades here going up against Space Station Gaming. We're ready for game one. Let's throw it over to our two favorite lunch ladies, Gore and Nick.
Damn, that's the title we get handed.
Joke's on you. I'm going to serve up some delicious pizza tomorrow.
Boom! Aggro, you thought you could
the
just come up
square-
in our house?
Well, I guess it's a rectangular pizza that you always got in school. That was
Fresh, never frozen,
Okay.
too. We're not going to sell y'all short.
fresh.
Heavy quotes here. Heavy quotes, I think, and the emphasis in the drafts here.
Woo.
And he had to flex it because it's cut off now. Shadow rocking a different style hair today. Invocal getting a haircut. Maybe you can help them see their goals a little bit clearer. And I think I see the light on what Renegades have drafted here, but I still like SSG's a little bit better.
Shadow's Drogos is really scary, and Vocal's Leon is really scary. Together, it can make a team do a lot of work.
Their powers combined.
And I think that's like the biggest thing is Renegades. That's been their story. I think Hero's on something he's comfortable on. Moonchopper's on something he's comfortable on. And I just can't shake the feeling that SSG are still ahead. And that's like the problem I think that's going to be the hurdle they have to overcome this set. Is that SSG have got the warm-up, and they're just a really, really good team that you have to beat.
Well, the marks go out. Not the longest range character, but close enough. That'll do, and gets good damage out on both Invocal and Shadow at the onset of this game. But Shadow's just looking to hold this corner and help his frontliners take control of the map.
Sadok's over there going to be able to get one kill, and now Eevee's going to be able to get aggressive. Drogos is taking an obnoxious amount of damage right now. And lucky for him, he's going to be able to get out of there, but that's something I didn't even think about. But Tyra has been noted as one of the stronger counters to Drogos, partially because she's hit scan, but mainly those marks really, really hurt the Dragon.
And if Freeze God continues to hit shots from this range with Eevee, matchups be damned, he is going to have one tough game. We talk a lot about Drogos and how he can overcome matchups on paper by just, superior play. Eevee is absolutely in that conversation as well, and Freeze God knows Drogos inside and out. That's one of his favorite characters to rock and roll with. You will be able to imagine he can shut this one down in a tough spot. Ice blocked in the corner, just waiting, buying time, and his team is there, gives him the help, bails him out of the situation, and he continues to have an impact.
And I mean, Midhow's just sitting far in behind,
Nice
but he's
battle
making
shot.
sure his name's going to be in there too, getting a lot of little spread damage, but also just watching who is Mark when they're Mark. Frontline's probably going to be taking a little bit of precedent overall to keep them alive, but it is SSG who are kind of flowing through this one. 3-0-1 for both Sadok and Freeze God, and now the 007, James Bond himself for Midtow.
So we talked a lot about, does this best of 7 earlier hurt or help SSG? And we've had this conversation a decent amount, but just to kind of hammer it home, I feel like if it's not hurting you, it's helping you.
Yes.
And what I mean by if you're not exhausted then you're going to be in a good spot. You've got, that's like, there's no better practice than a game day exposure like that.
And even like Kresnik said, he's like, if it was back-to-back, then there's a problem. There's exhaustion.
There's a conversation.
But you get a little break in between. He's like, we get to go sit down, we punch, we get to relax a little bit before we come back into it. Luckily,
because that was a 2.5 hour, 6-game set.
Yeah, so they had plenty of time to just reset while still being warmed up.
Yeah, some opportunity. And they just won't miss. FRZ God is hitting all of these mid-range, mid-air, blink shots onto this marked up Drogos, and it's making Shadow's life extremely difficult. 1 minute and 18 on the clock. This payload has already surpassed 90%. It has officially breached the base of the Renegades, and it is breathing down. The finish line here is in sight for SSG in the first round of Ascension Peak.
With a minute left, there's so much time to be able to flex around and do it. Freeze God's just been dancing around like you've been saying, and as long as he keeps finding these shots, like right now he's missing a few, but he's in the perfect position to continue being aggressive. He's whittling down Moonchopper, then they're going to whittle down Hero, and then no one from Renegades is going to be around enough to stop that payload.
Getting better and better, and hitting these mid-range shots is something that I've had to deal with. The pulls him in and spits him right back up. Not before he, chews him up a little bit. Sadak here has been ruthless with the overpowers. Can't keep his backliner alive there, but he will Commander's grab and lock down that kill. And in and out, Freeze God is playing with fire here, towing the line between life and death on Ascension Peak here on the mountaintop. Wants to land these shots, but this team fight is not happening fast enough for SSG, I think, to get this one through right now.
And it's really awkward because they lost Ares when they lost Ares. It's kind of slowed the pace down. Freeze God going down there is definitely going to be a big benefit for Renegades. I don't know if they have the bodies right now to be able to push this in.
Well, they spent Ice Storm, so that's a medium-sized ultimate. That's a medium-sized French fry there, kind of consumed for SSG. They won't have that available in the next round. Meanwhile, the Renegades have a lot of different things. Sadak almost gets in there in time. Tried to do his best random noob impression, but unable to kind of finish where it mattered most. Kind of flew frustration, I think, on the face of Sadak there.
I will say, though, if they had 12 seconds instead of 2, I actually think he has the chance to backdoor that, because Renegades look like they're pushing up there. I don't think they recognize where Khan was. And so moments like that, that's when you have to read it. That's when you have to go full random noob, big brain, come around the side to backdoor. But frustration probably coming from the fact that it's 1-1 instead of 2-0. Like, I think everyone on this team believes that they should beat Renegades 4-0, 4-0, 4-0, 4-0. So anything being slowed down a little bit, even though Renegades have been showing a little more prowess the last few weeks, definitely is going to maybe be a little upsetting.
7-2 after the first round for Khan. Sadak, you're starting to realize why Na'Vi paid so much attention to making sure he did not get power picks, or at least they got something even better. They really kept Sadak on the back foot that entire set, and it worked out well for them. The Renegades might want to look to do the same if he continues to go in like this, now moving up to 9-2.
And now being able to just, like, literally W-key at Moonchopper. Did not stop running at any point during that fight. Now finally going to be able to throw the shield. Has the overpower if he wants it. But they don't need it. They're just burning them down the good old-fashioned way. No one really having to use their ults. This time around he does grab someone, but it's more just for clarification. Stop the touch, stop the contest, and make sure they get locked down and out.
Now you might ask yourself, why hold him there? The longer he holds him, the more staggered Invocal is going to be. Every second matters, especially on Ascension Peak. When contest is not that hard to come by, you can see the Renegades are splintered right now. They're not able to get their feet under them. All 5 members are not allowed to play together. As a result of that, their strength and their effectiveness is also splintered. Spacestation, take the second payload.
I've never felt bad for a Drogos before, but right now it feels like he's just getting bullied. Like, when you have Khan hitting shots like that, you also have Mitao throwing out some shots, you're going to have Tyra hitting him, and then you have to add on the cherry that is Freeze God hitting as many shots on him. Like, Shadow's just getting bullied out. It's amazing that he's doing top damage right now, or at least has been in this game. But they're getting locked out. Now he's going to be number 3, surpassed by Invocal, and now Freeze God.
Wow.
It's just, he's doing so much.
Split second reaction on the ice block here. 2 power picks, Khan and Eevee for Space Station Gaming, and everyone else is filling their role, right? Mitao is doing his thing on Genos. Rashao is not going to take over the game on Fernando. He's there to play his role. He didn't get the power pick win condition point tank. Both of those stolen away by the Renegades. Other than that, Aries is there to mark up and be a cheerleader. It's something that he loves to do. It's something that he was, talked a lot about in that 4-game week that they had 2 weeks prior. And that's just what it is. Everyone is there to perform their role when necessary, but also everyone can also be a star, can be somebody that wins the game for SSG. This time around, it's just Freeze God and Sadak.
And, Aries is kind of the center, I would say. Like, he's part of what makes this team successful without being the obvious thing that makes the team successful, right? And it was interesting because when I was interviewing them, one of the things I asked about was how this set affected them, or how the earlier set would affect them coming into this one.
Right.
Aries shook his head no. He was just like, he was upset a little bit from how he performed earlier. And so I think that might affect him if he does really well in these games, or at least, does passing like we've said in the past. I think they'll be perfectly fine. But they're on a needle point.
Historically, the Eevee and Aura matchup isn't great, but with Luminary and Hunting Party, he is swinging for 1,200 damage every shot. No cooldowns to get back on the map, falls off, but SSG still get it done. It doesn't stop the fact that this Eevee is just hitting like a freaking Mack truck right now, and four-shotting this Inara. It's ridiculous the amount of damage FRZ God is able to pump out. Yes, it's a big number. It's their biggest single instance of damage on SSG with this 850 scaling up. But 40% is damn good to scale with Khan as well.
Yeah, and being able to set that up, you're looking at tank melting. Look at Moonchopper Slashline. He's 0-8. He does not have much of a chance to stand on the point. Same thing for Hero. He's been able to put some more kills on the board, but it's what you said. That's where the Hunter's Mark have to go. Hero, Moonchopper. They all of a sudden start taking more damage. Every single Astral Mark I've seen has been on Eevee and has been on Sadak. They are all in on just letting them run rampant. It's working.
Well, I don't know how much of this was premeditated or prepared. Team fight hitting the wall right now. Ice Storm, Seismic Crash, Dome Shield, everything in the kitchen sink, Time and Space, Dragon Punch. I feel like a Dr. Seuss book right now, just rhyming stuff off. All the ultimates hit the wall at the same time. But it is SSG that is left standing when the dust settles.
And it's how they're left standing in my eyes, right? Like, for a 3-1, you not only come out on top, but you come out on top with a single death, and it was a Dragon Punch. Like, every ult gets thrown out, and only, well, I guess I would say 4 of them, 5 of them matter on the side of SSG, and now Renegades are locked in a box.
Well, if he's gonna press E, I'm gonna press E too, and then we're all gonna press E. And that was
Who pressed E hard?
That was a mess, man. Oh my goodness. I think that was literally everything except overpower because it wasn't ready to go, and if it was, I'm sure it would have been popped. Smoke them if you got them, boys. Renegades and SSG hitting as hard as they possibly can. I don't hate it from the Renegades. It's just that SSG is playing better right now. They are just winning the damn game.
This is a team that not only has gotten the warm-up, but also is kind of mad that they lost earlier and they know they should win. And I think they're applying that strategy so far, which is just play well.
They certainly do. Breeze locks down what is likely to be his namesake kill in the Ice Storm. The final bell has tolled for the Renegades in game number 1. Smiling, laughing about that one. A good draft. But again, the emphasis for me is on how well they played the strengths of that draft. You can pick whatever you want in this meta. You got to just find a way to put yourself in a situation to succeed with what you got.
You know what, Nick? I'm going to go out and say it.
What
I'm feeling it. Week 1 and week 13, the only weeks Renegades get the wins. I know it. I can feel it.
All right.
We'll have to see if it actually happens.
It's brewing in your bones, man. I mean, that was one hell of a light show of a last team fight there. I loved what I saw. And it felt like, to me, from what we've seen historically, the best the Renegades has done is when they kind of went aggressive. Yeah. They almost went that NIP style. That game felt like that's a Na'Vi style draft.
Yeah.
And you have to play that. And I just don't know. The Renegades are looking for that identity.
When they play with patience, it almost feels like they give up too much room, whereas when they were playing aggressive, like you said, like that's when they were taking 4 threes on NIP. Like, those were impressive games, and that's the style I think they should bring back.
Well, first of his name, let's hear Dave's thoughts on game number 1.
That's him. Dave, your thoughts on game number 1?
I think that went the way I expected it to. Because you know what happens is they weren't able to lock down FRZ God, and then that frontline matchup, 2 rounds into the game, 1 round into the game, Sadak was 9-1 or whatever that absurd slash line was, and that's where my eyes went. I was, the DPS matchup in this one, I thought they could see eye to eye depending on the champion picks, depending on the maps. but things, maybe start tilting one way or the other where the frontliners stand. And this time, Sadak, 60,000 damage. Hero doing very well as well, 63,000 damage on the Inara. But just that extra frontline bullying that puts Moonchopper in a tough spot. 15-4 on the Khan, 10-3 as well. So what I said is you need to control the front line. Sadak kind of ran rampant. And you need the Leon to shut down Freeze God, and Freeze God ran rampant. So the fact that the Renegades actually had a stop, I would say, is a bit of a win in this scenario, because Space Station were in such a controlling position just straight out of picks and bans. And it's not even so much that the Renegades had a bad draft, but if you look just purely at comfort, Space Station went out. The only smudge is the Fernando, and he didn't really need to be a factor. He just needed to be Fernando. He needed to stand there with a big shield, and that's what he did.
Yeah, exactly. Hey, why don't you just hop on over here, Chief, and we'll take care of the rest. And Space Station certainly delivered on that. An easy coasting victory for SSG in this one. And now the question becomes, can Renegades afford to give Sadak the Khan again?
It's a similar kind of thought process that I had in our first set of the day, where Phoenix is like, you give him the Makoa. Why would you do that? Phoenix will make you pay for playing the Makoa. And you kind of talked about this on the desk. Why you give him the Atlas now? Why would you give him the Atlas?
Right.
He's gonna destroy you with Atlas. Do you give him Khan? X, Y, and Z. So at some point it's just like, well, he's so good on everything that it's hard to pick a ban out on either side. I think regardless of who he's playing, he is going to make it hard to play around him. He's going to create space just the same as someone like a Phoenix does. And whether it's the Khan, whether it's the Ashe, whether it's, Barrack, I think he's too good at too many champions to really focus on him in picks and bans, rather, I would say you need to maybe identify better or worse matchups just to make life a little bit easier for the rest of your team.
A lot of my Smite boys on the other side who play support, Polar Bear Mike, Ionic, those guys, they talk to me all the time about their ASC, their average space created. And Sadak very high on that metric.
No, he is.
There's not a real metric that says that. They just like to troll me all the time.
It's a mental metric.
Yeah, exactly. No, it's certainly mental something. Tyra and Ashe right there alongside it with the bans. Now, Renegades can take the Khan in this spot if they want to, if it isn't banned here by SSG. SSG, you imagine, is going to take away Makoa, but that would leave Atlas open. Now, do you even ban either one of those? If you leave both Atlas and Makoa open, you get one of them.
Right, so that's really what it comes down to, is are we willing to give away the Makoa, which it looks like they are. I don't think the Renegades would not go that route. I would scratch my head if they didn't. On the opposite side, you're going to get an Atlas, though, for Sadak. So this is a case of Renegades taking away the Tyra because Ares is so good on the Tyra, as well as realizing their first pick, and that's putting Space Station in an interesting spot where actually I wouldn't have they have their own strategies going, but if Space Station maybe ban out another DPS or a healer or something, they get Khan Atlas in return. At the end of the day, though, it is a Makoa, it is an Atlas, two normally banned champions, but they're going to come through here. And it's hard to kind of say one or the other. They both do sort of the aggressive off-tank thing, just in different ways.
Sure.
You saw how Makoa runs rampant.
Oh, yeah.
He has that sudden ancient rage that'll blow you up, gives him extra health, whereas Atlas just eliminates you from the fight. You can't play the game for, the duration of his exile. So they both do similar things, just in different ways. It really depends on the comp that you build around them, I would say, that maybe tilts those two one way or the other.
Now, I have not been, as I mentioned earlier, I've been on the Smite grind middle of the season, haven't got a chance to get my hands on Atlas a whole lot yet. But I imagine Eevee could struggle in that matchup, right? If you get stasis, you have such a low health pool, you're dead coming out of it.
That's true. Actually, we saw... that was earlier today. Actually, a perfect example of that was early. Yeah, right. It was the Maeve instead of the Eevee, but a very similar idea.
Sure.
Whereas
you lock down a mobile
lock
character,
down, set them back, blast them for 1900 damage, whatever it is,
good.
And you basically eliminate them. So yeah, it's on paper sort of goes the way of Eevee, but if you get somebody who's very proficient, like a Sadak on this Atlas, things can start to tilt, I should say, in favor of SSG. Locking down the Cassie is important here because she's going to do so well against Barrack Makoa. Two very healthy champions, two champions that rely heavily on shields in their kit.
Yep.
So having a Wrecker and a big game Cassie on their side, that's a good answer back here from SSG. Otherwise, you look at the two front lines, Renegades draft, you're starting to give the edge to them even. Not only do you give Shadow Eevee, which he's very good on, but you take away Eevee from FRZ.
What about this, though? Yeah, this Victor selection. This is the first time we've seen him today.
Yeah, it is. And the first time we've seen him in a good minute. And this is sort of in the meta of maybe 1 or 2 hit scans. Sadak is okay with it, seemingly on the opposite side. He plays a similar role to, like a Tyra would. They ban out Tyra. You don't have the extra damage amp, and a Sky, there's almost too much to break down all at once. The Sky is also very good at flanking and melting tanks.
Yeah.
And they also have a Cassie on their side, so you're going to be able to blow up tanks and melt tanks. Pick your poison.
Okay.
If you do, it's going to be Sky. On the opposite side, though, they get Victor, which is sort of consistent long-range damage. The Inflame is going to allow them to suddenly go and fight. But my question is Renegades are in a very good spot if they're able to withstand Cassie Burst and Sky Melt, because that's scary if you're a tank.
It certainly is. It certainly is a lot on the line now for Renegades if they want their frontliners to stay alive. It's going to be tough for them. Let's get it over to the game. Game 2 about to start. It's our 2 favorite bus drivers, Nick and Gore.
Because we're there to get you safe at the end of the day, Yeah. It's a thankless job, but it's a job that needs doing.
I always thank my bus drivers.
Yeah. Get them a little Christmas gift, a little Starbucks, whatever they're into.
Whatever they want. Just
Take
like
those.
Renegades have blessed us with a Victor, gifted us a Victor, and SSG, to match the crazy, gift us a Sky. And it makes me so happy. Look at that debilitate.
They're matched up perfectly on the graphic as well. First mode versus debilitate. Who's going to be left standing at the end of the day? Ares piloting the Twilight Assassin, I think is her title. Technically, Makoa bouncing on the head of Atlas, tagged by the poison bolts, ripped to pieces, in and out. He will be first blooded by the other uncommon champion here, Victor.
And those are going to be the way these fights go. You look at Makoa and, 25% of 10,000 health is pretty big whenever he Ancient Rages. I think we're going to end up seeing a ton of really cool and really good from that Sky.
Yeah.
But it does depend on where Invocal sits for this Victor. If he's going to be able to lock down the shots the same way, as much, if not, I think that's where there might be some disconnect. But big game Cassie plus Sky is really, really good for dealing with Makoa and Barrick.
Very, very careful about how the Victor peeks out. Invocal able to thread the needle, finds Sadak. 60% for the Renegades on the objective. SSG, a small paltry 30%. They're losing this fight. Ares is backing off. I'm not sure to where. He's likely just to sit back here until the next fight begins. Goes in for the touch. I don't even know if he's going to get there on time.
He's looking to try and find the melt. Unfortunately, reveals himself. That was that awkward moment. Smoke Bomb gives off just enough of an audio cue that you could see Invocal turning around to look for him and wait for him. And Sky doesn't have a lot of health. Sky gets melted pretty quickly. And so even though I think the pick is spicy and I think it can do a lot, this is without really many Illuminates, if any Illuminates, on the side of Renegades. Whereas on the game goes on, I don't think she's going to be able to do too much.
Well, Barrage comes out from Vic. Tries to grab another frag here on the high ground of Stone Keep. Ares finally gets one on the board. Takes down Invocal, but Choppers found 2 of his own. Poison Bolts tag up the Makoa, the character he's probably picked to counter out Shadow. And a nice little slug shot from across the map. Connect at the same time and just blow up Ares. You can see he didn't even react to taking that damage.
Didn't have time to. He was just there and then dead.
I just saw the Barrack slug. I was like, wait, what's up?
It's just the supreme headshot Barrack. It's just going to be a lot. And Flame going to be popped here now for the Renegades. And they're looking to try and push this one in all the way. This is one of the rare moments where even though Alice is on one team, he does a lot of damage, as you can see there. It's not really driving the team forward.
Taking a bit of a risk here. Toxic Time Bomb comes out and connects. It's enough damage to take down Moonchopper. There's no front line left. Second chance brings Sadak back to life. Fire Strike from the low ground is good.
Wow.
And without a frontliner, the Renegades get it done. Well done there, Detroit. I loved what I saw from there, and just the will to fight on and not give up on that point fight pays dividends for RNG.
I think what we're seeing right now, not just from Renegades, but really from SSG, is potentially the disconnect between where drafting makes sense on paper and where its execution becomes different, right? Where Skye in this scenario is a great pick, but also you're seeing why Skye isn't a great pick. Like on paper, her damage, everything she does is perfect for dealing with Makoa. It's part of the reasons you could maybe let him through as his fairies can pop off. And there's still opportunities for that. But Shadow and Invocal have his number. Like I just have not seen him really escape any of these fights. And even the 2 kills he's gotten, he's traded 1 for 1 in each of them.
I think it's almost like Torvald, right? Yes, you're best on paper at doing this, but sometimes a situation just calls for you to blow up somebody else, and I think as Skye, you can blow up anyone, really. It's percentage-based damage. It's technically better against higher HP characters, but against lower HP pool characters, then the flat damage from your weapon is better against them, right? So it's kind of a trade-off there. I think you're just good at blowing people up. Skye really does one thing well, and that's damage.
And unfortunately, Harry's hasn't had the uptime enough to deal any of it. He's been locked away. Like, for a Skye, and now with 5 deaths, he's just not able to be present. Luckily for them, Renegades don't have any comeback mechanic. They're capturing this pretty slow, so they should be able to get a touch, or at least cause overtime, but it's going to be difficult. Like, Renegades might win this one mainly off of the fact that SSG might not have the Skye in their pocket the way they thought they did.
There it is, trying to get in on this Makoa now, inside of the shell shield and just ripping away. That's the matchup that you love to get when you're the Skye. Tag Shadow on the high ground as well, just like that. SSG, they get a foot in the door here, and it might be enough. Comeback mechanic is already sending them surging back into contest for this point.
And you're seeing a couple of poison darts thrown here, a couple of poison darts thrown there. Just enough to keep them locked away. Now a big time bomb going to be able to ward you away from the point. Even going to be able to blink in and get overtime, but I don't know if it's going to be enough.
There it is. Overtime started, likely to end. Not without a fight, though. The Renegades want to get back in here. They're kind of playing, hesitating. That hesitation gore might come back to haunt them.
Now they're not hesitating on Makoa. Moonchopper is just getting melted down while Renegades are being able to bounce back and forth. They don't have any tanky bodies to hold on to this. Shadow's doing everything in his power, but you can only last so long.
There it is. Now there's just no more lethality on the board. Victor has to get back here, but there's a fear and a temporal divide splitting Stone Keep in half, giving Ares the uptime. Finally, he can rip some of these raid bosses off of the field. A triple kill for the Twilight Assassin.
And now's the time, Nick. I want to look at his loadout. I want to see what Ares is running, because I want to know specifically if he has... I can't even remember the name of the card. Of course, Poisoner's going to be in there. Victory Rush is a big one whenever he gets an elimination. And Decrepify, the new one, where it's just 2.4 seconds after he hits those poison bolts, doesn't have to worry about the ammo. And that's really, really big, because that's just time you're buying that you can continue melting. For a frontline, that's time they're not going to be able to get healed, or that the healing's not going to matter. So I think Decrepify is probably going to be the biggest thing here for him. Then the rest of his loadouts just to kind of keep him alive, keep him safe.
And you can actually, the ammo counter physically disappears off of his screen once he connects with the poison. It doesn't have to be all 3. Any of these poison bolts will activate this effect. So pay attention to the bottom right of his crosshair. Whenever you see that number go away, that just means he's not spending any ammo, and he's going to come back out with what he went in with. So, like, if he hits those poison bolts right now at 8, he's going to come back out at 8. Doesn't reload his clip or anything like that for him, but it is extremely effective in terms of uptime and doing damage. A lot of flankers are limited by their reload.
And in a moment like that, like, that's the perfect example. He had 8 shots. With 8 shots, you can't do anything. With a few seconds of not consuming any ammo plus 8 shots, you have essentially a clip, maybe a clip and a half, really, for him that he's going to expend before he has to deal those last few and actually reload.
Even if you just hit 1 poison bolt, you're doing north of 1,000 damage. 2.4 seconds of 1,000 damage per second, at least. Do the math, chat. That's 2,000 damage. Maybe even more if you can get in there, but at the moment it's Shadow who's getting in there, connecting big time with Eevee, but Freeze God comes out of spawn, gives him a piece of his mind, and sends him back to spawn.
I don't really like this, Sonny.
Get off my porch, boy.
Just make sure he knows how they feel about this Eevee.
Get away from my girlfriend. Keeps Inara nice and safe there, and Cassie and Inara. I'll let the subreddit have at that one. That's a fanfic I'm not going to write, though.
You're not going to write, but you facilitated it. Directed by Nick Keogh.
I'm just here to help.
Produced by Nick Keogh.
Oh, come on.
Written by...
I don't want anything to do with
else.
it. In fact, I'm already regretting saying it.
Either way, now SSG, they're going to be back dancing around the payload, but kind of back and forth, I want to say right here. That's a good pick on the hero, but Shadow and Invocal are the problems, and that's what they really need to learn how to deal with.
Aren't they always? The wall goes up and, so close, but no cigar. 300 HP left in the tank, but Rochelle gets turbo boosted back to full HP. Chopper's going to try to dodge this one. Can't quite get out of there. Sky blows him up with enough time. Such a good tank shredder. One tank down, 2 tank down. Barrage is all they've got left. It's good enough. Sky doesn't have the mobility to get away from it. An overtime meter starts and ends, but this time in favor of the Renegades as they move ahead to 3-1.
I think it's big that they get Barrage out of Invocal at the very end. Only because that means not having that at the beginning of the round makes it a little safer for Sky, I think, overall. But it's also the unfortunate scenario of, well, if you're SSG, they're up 3-1. You could potentially lose this game to the Renegades, depending on how things go. And it kind of depends on that. Does Ares do another triple kill? Is he able to come through? Like, his damage is pretty good, but that 64,000 is only through Hero and Moonchopper, really.
That's pretty much it, too. I mean, let's pull slash lines back up real quick. SSG are not looking pretty. 07, 26, 46, 58. Ares, the only one positive at the moment here, and it's really a lot of Invocal and Shadow, but Chopper as well at 6 and 5 on the Makoa. They are problems that need dealing with. First Poison Bullets will miss this round. Comeback mechanic enabled for SSG, splitting the map in half with this Temporal Divide. This is when they want to assassinate Barrack, but a Dome Shield will prevent it.
Gonna pop the Inflame with it as well. This is a big win kind of fight right now for the Renegades, but they're getting locked down. Eevee gonna be able to jump around. Moonchopper with credit for the kill. Comes forward, but Freeze God gets rid of the Eevee. Gonna be a fair trade down the line, I would say.
Oh, gotta be careful. That wall's actually gonna pay huge dividends. He can't get in. Moonchopper's locked out, and Ancient Rage will score exactly nothing for the Renegades. What a wall there. Trying to wall Barrack in, but I think they'll take the silver lining of keeping Ancient Raging Makoa out.
Just being able to buy yourself time, space.
Come on back
like
now.
You said, not having to worry about it. Going to go ahead and get a second chance, get his setback.
Ooh.
And now you're looking at a very interesting fight. Eevee is incredibly susceptible to damage from Sadak here, but you're going to notice it's not connecting anywhere near the way he wants it to.
Oh, playing with fire, toeing the line, whatever you want to call it. Sadak has to pay the iron price. Goes down to Moonchopper. Moonchopper, I think, maybe almost hit another hook on the high ground here. What a rotation from Invocal. Back-to-back grenades. Not quite enough to finish off Cassie, but he's got teammates to do that with. 57 and climbing, a clean team fight win. Gormizer, this might be the Renegades' first map.
Honestly, I think it's going to be. It's just one of those things. They hinged a lot on the Sky, and Sky can only do so much. Again, on paper, she's great. In actuality, she does die pretty quickly, and I feel like even though they picked it last, they waited for it. They were happy with the victor. It definitely feels like it might be more one-sided.
Well, one more barrage to maybe capstone this game. Hold the phone.
That's gonna be big.
SSG fight back. A couple of punches here. Thrown. Sadak goes down. Wow. Hero puts up 2 in the kill feed. Shadow finds another, and he soars in with wings aglow as the Renegades even up the set 1 apiece.
Yeah, I think I'm going to go ahead and wager that it's probably a good idea to not let Shadow have Eevee.
And Invocal is one of those, he's the turbo fragger, man. Whatever situation, whatever champion,
like no matter what,
win or lose, whatever map, it's like that guy just finds a way to kill people. And whether it's a Victor, whether it's a Cassie, I mean, he's got a lot of stuff in the pool. That's why a more niche character like a Victor is still going to be, I think, strong in his hands.
And he showcased how well it can work on that map. And there were a lot of moments where it's like he killed Sky. He's not countering Sky. He's not doing anything insane. He's just like, cool, you're running this way. One shot here, you're stealth. Well, you're still running. Like, I'm just going to shoot where I was going to shoot before. Like, you changed nothing. I think Ares, there's a couple of ways to maybe try and counter that, but you have to be so hyper aware of what's going on that it's like, I need to stop taking a step forward and go to the left and back or something like that. Like, you have to juke in a way you've never juked before.
Juke harder than you've ever juked before. Well, Renegades have managed to do just that, and they get themselves a win on the board. Let's get it back up to the desk.
Renegades able to steal one away from Spacestation, and I don't even know if it was as simple as Spacestation picked Sky. Sky's usually not that good. I mean, that was a solid play from Renegades.
Yeah, and remember the 2 names that I brought forth going into this one were you need Shadow to do well, and you need Invocal to do well, and they went above and beyond. 96,000 damage. I mean, call it 100, call it 100, a little above 100 for Invocal. Nobody breaking 70 on the opposite side. I mean, you would think that a Sky and a Cassie into a Makoa Barrack would just have free reign to pump out damage, and they weren't, because Shadow was too mobile and Vocal was just too tried and true, 15-4, 15-5. Viral, big game. Moonchopper, big game as well. Hero had a good game. I mean, top to bottom, Renegades benefited from Invocal and Shadow basically free farming Ares and Freeze God up to this point. So while on paper, I think that, a Cassie and a Sky match up okay into a Makoa and a Barrack. If you have so much damage, I mean, Invocal is basically able to sit on the high ground all game and kill off the Sky, whether it's a triple kill from him, whether it's a triple kill from Shadow. Nobody on the side of Space Station were just really ever able to get comfortable. They didn't have the uptime in order to melt these tanks, and that allowed the Makoa to run rampant. One thing kind of led to another, and it all just ricocheted from there.
Yeah, when your damage dealers go a combined 30 and 9,
yep,
things are going pretty well for you. That's pretty safe to say. So Space Station, they take a loss here that felt like an experimentation game in that instance,
yes.
right? I mean, they win game 1. They go to Renegades map pick. They lose that one. Now I think we might see them go back a little bit more traditional in what we saw from them more in set 1.
I think that's fair, because now it's back to, each team has shown a map, and whoever loses controls the map pick from here on out, and this time it is Space Station. So Space Station are the ones controlling the map, taking it to Splitstone again, as well as Ascension Peak. Splitstone is a map that they are very good on. They like this map. FRZ earlier, they threw him on the Maeve, Eevee here. I think these are two things you really have to look at on the side of the Renegades. You have to be prepared to play against a Maeve. You need to be prepared to play against an Eevee, because what we've seen is either a Cassie or a Leon that kind of hang out on that high ground out of your base, and then a Maeve or an Eevee, again, just jump on top of you and limit your ability to add really anything to a lot of these team fights. So if I'm Renegades, that's where I'm looking, because Space Station, if it isn't broken, if your Splitstone is as good as it is, there's nothing really to change, and it's out of flank, out of little long-range damage, and control where the enemy backline's able to move. So Renegades, if they're not going to pick or ban the Maeve in this case, they just need to bring something that can deal with it, whether it's somebody who doesn't rely so much on the range, SSG, or just going to pick it away. This puts Renegades in an interesting spot. They have to kind of choose which frontliner they want to ban away in this case. Do they want to lean that heavily on the Maeve, maybe on that next pick? Space Station, unsurprisingly, go the con, and this is where the Renegades have to show their hand a little bit. Ash, Barrack are both good on this map. So there's actually quite a few ways that both teams could kind of handle this.
Yeah, absolutely. And Space Station did play Na'Vi earlier on today at Splitstone Quarry. They won that 4-3, and these were their exact bans up until this point. Torvald, Eevee, Na'Vi banned the Makoa Atlas, and then Space Station first picked the Khan. Now, what Na'Vi did, they went Barrack Anara right after this. So Renegades may not double down on those two frontliners right away. They're hovering over the Ashe and the Bomb King, but this was that Tyra Genos Maeve comp that did really, really well, and so a lot of those picks are still on the table here for Space Station if they want them.
Yeah, and the Bomb King really good in that bleacher side of things by the little the spiky spinners that happen beneath that close range hallway type matchup, where even if you're not sticking the enemy, you're doing AoE damage wherever those bombs may land. So this is a good pick as far as controlling that down and off side. I imagine Barrack will be picked here as well as the Maeve, and then Anara probably to answer back for Hero on the opposite side. So it is going to be the Maeve again, and that's the question I was raising is, what do you pick from Renegades that maybe deals with that? Because at the end of the day, that FRZ he's going to be laser focused on getting into your backline, whoever your long range damage dealer is, and making them have a hard time. With Renegades showing Bomb King, they don't have as much dive. Ashe has a little bit, but she's going to be controlling that bleacher area as well. So Space Station are kind of free right now to pick a Cassie, a Leon, and not have to worry way too much about the safety of those champions. Renegades, I think, have to think pretty hard about what they want to pick into this Maeve. Again, maybe going for more of a Death Volley team comp. We don't have to hang back. We can all hang together. That could be an option. But either way, Space Station to put them in an interesting spot.
These are the exact way that the Space Station comp has gone before, except that was an Ashe instead of Barrack, but that being picked by Renegades, they just kind of swap it out. So Genos, Tyra are the two you're watching out for here from Space Station. Renegades pay attention, though, and they take that Tyra away. Maldamba and Tyra, the two picks there by Renegades. They still lock in the Genos right away. But now they need someone who can fill those Tyra's shoes, and that will be Vivian. Very similar still.
Yeah, literally same size feet, same taste and style, all that sort of top to bottom. Vivian, Tyra do different things, but in a very similar way. I mean, you really pick Tyra for the extra hunting party damage. You pick Vivian for those Sentinels able to melt away. But at the end of the day, you get 2 direct damage dealers who are capable of doing very similar things. The Genos counters out the Tyra a little bit as well, but I like the way I don't mind the way the Renegades have picked here, because I was sort of hyper-focused on that Maeve. You know, if you pick a Leon, you pick a Cassie, somebody who has to sit up and back, they're going to get dove time after time. But this has shown a team that'll, fight a little bit more cohesively, not necessarily leave one person out to dry. The flank pressure is always going to be there.
I will fight to protect.
But then I levy the same question on the opposite side, because Vivian is going to love standing up and back.
Yep.
Free firing with the Sentinels out and melting away the Renegades champion. So do you have dive or ability to deal with that Vivian? A little bit in the way of an Ashe, maybe a high ground Dread Serpent. Anara can stun out. I mean, these are a lot of conditional things that rely on ultimates. So it's, does Ares stay in a position where he's just going to free fire from the back line? Do Renegades have a way of dealing with that? They do, but it's a high-cost way of dealing with it.
Right. It's not as simple as a Maeve just diving you with a
right.
Genos Blessing, and all of a sudden you're in a lot of trouble pretty much instantly for a low investment cost. Space Station, this is a kind of big game for them, I think.
Yeah.
You want to bounce back. That plus-minus is still very important for them.
Yeah, very, very important at the end of the day. They need to win this one to keep all of that weird contention for second place in play. It's going to be a fun one.
And for it, we've got our 2 favorite cotton-headed ninny muggins, Gore and Nick.
I don't think he's allowed to say that. I don't know what that
you don't
means.
say that.
I don't know. I feel like there's something in there that's probably like not good.
If we were at the North Pole, man, I don't know.
Yeah, dude, those penguins would get him.
He'd be getting a Reddit thread for sure. You would hate to see that. I hear elves are particularly vicious when it comes to slinging insults like that around. But that's neither here nor there. SSG are going to look to get in there, and I have very vivid memories of Ares uncontested, free-firing on Vivian, pushing payloads in on Splitstone Quarry. Part of that, foursome weekend that they had to kind of come through and destroy on. Nothing to really dive it. The desk brought up kind of Ashe. My thing is will Moonchopper have the chops to just go back there and to dive that?
Well, it doesn't matter right now. It's going to be Freeze God
Look
with
at
the
this.
chops to go back there. And
He's trying.
That. He's up there.
He took the scenic route.
But it looks like
Ares just left.
Yeah, he's just like, cool. I'm going to go hang out over here with my friends.
That's kind of what I was talking about with Maeve. It feels like, well, what happens if she just leaves? But what if, now bear with me, Ares just walked away, and he does. Stays, relevant in that fight. I think the mobility certainly favors Space Station Gaming.
Yeah.
And right now they are also leading on the objective at 99-0. They might just be too good at this map, man.
Yeah, this is their map, hands down. This is one that they always do incredibly well on. Like, they figured it out. I would argue that the fact that earlier went 4-3 was really impressive from Na'Vi. I don't know if Renegades are going to be able to step up and match it. It's just SSG run this show completely differently. They are the ringmasters here.
Remember when Nocturnes lost that Game 7 on Splitstone? Sadak said, never again.
We're
going to be the
We're
nuttiest
training.
Splitstone team this world has ever seen. Freeze God 3-0, Ares 1-0, Rochelle 1-0 after the first objective. Good stuff all around. Overpowers the first ultimate expended, and it will result in the frag on the Shadow.
Just get rid of the bomb game. Delete him as fast as you can. Shadow, again, has been a problem. Invocal is going to cause trouble for you the entire time, but if you can just stop Shadow from also causing trouble for you, I think it's going to be a lot easier. You make him have a bad game, and there's a lot less legs for Renegades to stand on. I think that's going to be part of the game plan. At this point, it's just kind of full-on aggression, though, from SSG.
One more shot would have done it. Here's the Dread Serpent just to peel, but Freeze God's already gone. The wall was up as well, so that was hard peel. There was no real counter-engage potential there. Nobody from the Renegades could get around that Anara wall, I think, fast enough. Close, but no cigar on the kill on the Bomb King. Will not fall for Freeze God as he makes his way around this map. Played a lot of Maeve today on Splitstone Quarry as well. Time and space, giving him toes. Mitau gobbles up Invocal as the payload rounds the final corner in round number 1.
It's been able to cut hair, but it also clips toenails for you if you want it to. Through time and space, it's ever versatile. Buy one now if you want it. because it's definitely winning them a game as far as they're concerned. SSG, it's just full pressure. Ares is looking to burn down the Inara wall and then burn down the Inara.
There it is. And once he gets rolling, Ares is a tough problem to solve. Space Station Gaming off to a 2-0 start. Not a lot of time for the Renegades to recuperate, talk about what's happening, buy items. I don't know. How do they keep themselves in this one?
Honestly, you have to completely change your approach to the point fight. Either Moonchopper needs to go a little faster, or Moonchopper needs to slow it down and stay back. Like, don't even bother getting aggressive.
Dang, he hit 2 there. That was very nicely timed, very nicely placed through time and space. All up in your face, Mitao. Looking clean and so gentlemanly. The cape, the top hat. He's one milady away from achieving full neckbeard status.
It's the one thing keeping him clean shaven right now, is that he hasn't said it. It's the Gentleman Genos. I love the sound effects on the Sims gun, but it's just one of those things right now. Like, Mitao has been widely impactful, and I love the way that they changed his approach. This is what Renegades needed to do, is just don't let SSG play their game. Change how you're going to fight it. Watch for the Maves. Slow him down.
I think he's still on his horse.
And then see what you can do.
Moonchopper's still on his horse, biding his time, finding a way in. Assert dominance, quick up, down. King Bomb rolls on through. Lots of targets. Sadak will be the first one. Answered back quickly, 1 for 1. 70 bullets in the clip. Time to reload and go to work. Ares is fighting tooth and nail here with Tyra. Vivian versus Tyra. Rashal helps him out, rolls him over in the 2v1 scenario. Trying to stay healthy, trying to poke out. Renegades with the comeback mechanic, 50% to 33, but this one goes all SSG.
And being able to find that fight, like that 50% is nice. Comeback
Whiffed
mechanic
overpower.
is nice, but you can only do so much with it. Whiffed overpower actually could spell a big
That's
difference
bad.
overall in this fight. But Viral getting rid of
Did he
Sadak
fear
right
him
there,
into
that
the
might make a
fidget?
big difference.
I think that might have feared him into the fidget, or Viral just happened to get the last hit there. 81% for Space Station. Good flank. Great mark as well. Freeze God tagged up. They know where he is. He's taking more damage. If they can just move on to the point for a few more seconds, the Renegades will be able to get a foot here. Nice Poppy Bomb. Keep himself safe. Time and space. No connection there. Freeze God still floating in the backline. He's going to need a heal. He needs a mark. He needs some help. SSG don't have any more time on the clock. They need to get this one done now, and Freeze God opens it up nicely.
Well, it's 90 to 81. Moonchopper's flanked around. Got rid of Ares. That's going to be 2 down on the side of SSG. That's going to open a lot of doors, but you got to pay attention to the objective, and you got to get rid of everyone who's nearby. Freeze God's trying to do whatever he can, but this is a 1v5.
It is. This is too tall a task even for the superstar that is Freeze God. He's hiding around corners, not even quite safe from Ash. He can blast you, albeit minimally, with damage around those line of sight breaks. For me, it's simple, Gore. It's the overpower. That one whiffed. That was it's a guaranteed insta-kill in that spot on Splitstone.
And not only that, not just the guaranteed insta-kill, but
And then he
Inara
died.
and Ash were up right there. Like,
Yeah.
that's that moment where it's just like, if you get that kill, you at least burn one of these front lines that is consuming your time. And that's the biggest thing. I think as good as they are at this map, SSG have one thing playing against them, and that's that while they got the warm-up, Renegades saw them go 7 points on this map earlier. They knew what to expect, and they know how to adapt to it because they saw what Na'Vi did to do it.
Well, so far so good on the defense, assuming there's no... was Freeze God reacting to his teammates through time
really
and
felt
space?
like jumping out of the way, just to make sure.
You know, that's how you know it's a really good one. Just like how you know when it's a good backdoor, nobody actually sees it, including us, including the cameraman, including the audience back at home.
Including random noob. Didn't even know he was doing it.
Wait, what am I? Whoa, wow. That's the pinnacle backdoor there, if you even confuse yourself. But I think Space Station have a nice sort of defensive line set up here. All their line of sight's covered. And Renegades, frankly, they don't have the mobility to do something like that. Nobody, unless it's somebody who sneaks by on a mount, I don't think has the ability to kind of stealthily sneak past. Ash is just too loud and just too proud.
And none of them also have that 1v1 potential I think Evie always brings with her to get not only into the back line, but then if someone does see you or does catch you out, you can at least box with them or get out. And this is going to be one where it's the old-fashioned way for them no matter what. And Vocal finding a kill right there. Those definitely going to open the door. King Bomb's available. Like, if they want to commit ults to this, they absolutely can push it in.
Well, a couple of bombs through the door here. Grumpy goes out, looking for the stun, won't quite find it. 30 on the clock. Ultimate's at the ready. Corner rounded, primed for this team fight. Who will be the first one? Dome Shield expended. Renegades looking for the tie here. This would, you know, really big defense if they can hold it. Go up 3-1. First kill. Second kill answered. 1 for 1 so far in this exchange. 10 seconds on the clock. Freeze just trying to find a way to be effective. He's got this Bomb King pinned in the corner. He knows it, but he's staying effective. Nice target swap to keep the point safe, but now he's got to get in there and contest. How much can Freeze God do on his own?
I mean, right now he's trying everything, but he's going to have some backup. Sadat comes down. Freeze God picks up 2, picks up a 3rd. Sadat credit for the kill, but we know those daggers are flying.
What a beast. Honestly, guys, what a beast. He's got this Bomb King pinned in the corner, but that target swap to Inara was nuts.
Yeah, where it's just like, okay, let's kill that person instead. Like, and admittedly, the more important target in the scenario. Like, Bomb King is going to be good because he will kill you dead. And Nara is going to be good because she's not going to die. She's going to keep pushing that in. And at the rate the fight was going, if they don't kill a Nara there...
Oh, he just got the last hit. I wanted to see if he feared him in there.
She probably pushes it in. Like, there was a moment...
No, for sure. That's what it was. He's over her, and he's kind of just like, fine. And then he turns and you know, daggers at Inara. Kills the Bomb King, and then still has to quickly get back onto the objective to keep it from going in because the rest of Renegades was still there and still ready to contest. So Freeze pulling a lot of weight in that final team fight. Lots of ultimates ready to go. Dome Shield the only one expended for SSG. They've gone heavy into Bulldozer here just to plow through these Inara walls, I assume, and Warders Fields.
Yeah, it's not.
Oh.
Well... maybe her too. I don't think Bulldozer works on Inara, but...
mid-range character, by the way.
Based on that damage, it definitely is working in favor of SSG. They're up 3-1 right now. There's a King Bomb, but it is not going to make it off.
Here comes the pain train, brother. Ares fully loaded. Sentinels out. Luminary applied. Throwing out everything but the kitchen sink here. Obliterating people. This is the Vivian wheelhouse, baby. Walk straight at me in a line. See how that goes, idiot. Not even Inara can stand up to the absolute inferno. And he's spelling something for us. I think it was lull. I'm not sure exactly the message he was trying to send to the broadcast. Ares is trying to communicate. What is he saying?
The numbers, Mason.
Doctor, he's trying to speak to us, I think. Renegades need to find a foot in the door at this point.
Yeah.
That's not the... Again, that is a very good map for SSG. They did okay, right? They get that one offense there, but at the end of the day, I think that was more because of the missed overpower.
It's going to be that moment, like missing the overpower, but that's SSG's like strongest map right now, I would argue. So for Renegades, like, just shake it off, dust off, you stand up, you got knocked down. It's not the end of the world, very similar to map 1, but the problem is how they take that loss, because that's something that we've seen Renegades kind of struggle with, similar to the Knights, where I don't want to say they tilt easily, but they definitely take the loss from game to game. You can feel it impacting them every single step.
It's the classic, like, when they lose, they're all just, like, sitting there, like, staring at the monitor kind of somberly with their hands still on the mouse and the keyboard. It's just like, hey, game's over. Game's over, guys. Got to keep this momentum rolling. The Renegades, they've got a map off of one of the best teams in the league here. They've done it before. If they can just dig their feet in and keep doing it. Let's get it back up to the desk to hear their thoughts on Splitstone.
Man, a dominant performance from Space Station. It's the exact same draft where they looked good against Na'Vi, and if they were looking good against Na'Vi, you can bet they're going to look really good against the Renegades.
Yeah, now you have to consider Splitstone. I mean, it's been such a give and take map that's, you know, sort of been neither here nor there for a lot of teams in this league, but Space Station have figured it out. The only one above 60,000 damage on the side of the Renegades is Invocal. You'd expect that coming from the Tyra. Numerous members on the side of Space Station above it. FRZ, the question, you know, it raised more eyebrows as far as like, well, you don't have any dive to get on the Vivian on the opposite side. At the same time, you don't really have surefire way of dealing with the mobility of the Maeve either. I mean, Invocal can shred Freeze God in this matchup if he's able to hit his shots, but there's just too much going on. And then look at Richao, 7-3 and 10. You open the space, your teammates step into that space, and everything falls from there. And that's exactly what happens in this case, where, you know, flashy plays, high damage numbers, that goes to the Maeve, that goes to Ares on the Vivian as well. But what we saw time and time again is Richao on this Barrack. He has the Genos mark, which is an important thing to look at as well. A little bit of extra damage on an already high damage frontliner. It's going to make life pretty tough. 65,000 damage is good for better than I think all of the members save one on the side of the Renegades. So not only do you have to deal with Maeve, not only do you have to deal with Vivian, but you have to go through a Genos barrack to get there. And it's not so much a bad draft from the Renegades, just really clean execution, I would say, on a better draft still from SSG.
Yeah, agreed. I mean, clearly they're very comfortable on this map and are drafting it really, really well. Interested to see how teams continue to adjust to that, as they've seen 2 looks of that comp now from Spacestation on Splitstone. But now it's time for some Bright Marsh.
Yeah.
This time around, this was this map that SSG struggled on earlier on the day.
Sure.
They got 4-1'd here by Na'Vi, so looking to get a little bit of momentum back on this map.
All we have in this matchup so far, 4-1. It's been 4-1, 4-1,
That's true.
4-1, just going back and forth. So, you know, if we're reading the same book, just a different chapter, maybe another 4-1 in the cards here. I think that's a smart ban. I think Bomb King can flourish in this sort of matchup. You have to look out for the Ruckus as well from Sadak. Well, before he would want us to look past his previous performance on the Ruckus, because it was
on Bright Marsh.
On Bright Marsh, right? Specifically, he would want us to look past that. That said, I think that was a bit of a one-off. I think you replay that game 10 times, he maybe has that performance once or twice. So I think that's just an unfortunate performance from him that time around. So very much in the cards, I think, is still the Ruckus. Getting the Ashe first, leaving the Con on the board is interesting enough, especially if Space Station Gaming are going to go Ruckus on the back end at some point. And getting the Eevee, I don't dislike the Ashe pick. Very high priority, very good frontliner, but Khan is just so dominant. I mean, the Ashe ultimate, the assert dominance that can win you fights, the AoE CC, the damage immunity for a period of time. It's good at controlling small spaces, which Bright Marsh can be, a series of small spaces. But at the end of the day, Khan basically has a free kill button. I'm going to press my ultimate, pull you in, and then get rid of you. And that, I would say, more times than not, is game-changing than Ashe. Again, they sort of do similar things, just in a different way. Renegades answering back with Tyra Barrack, though, so no draft to scoff at either on the side of Red.
Yeah, that's tough to give up the Con to Sadak. I mean, maybe they're thinking he'll just go Ruckus anyways, but when we saw what he did on this map earlier with Ruckus, you're hoping that he rolls that same low roll again. Surprised to see that he gets the Con. And then Eevee, Maldamba, and Nara. Good AoE damage, really, among all 3 of those selections to really follow up with this Con and allow Sadak to just go in there and get his hands dirty.
Yeah, I guess it never would have been Ruckus since Sadak was always going to play the Con. But either way, something always to keep your eyes out for. Anara Damba, you know, you say it every single time it's played. It's just a high healing matchup, high throughput, keeps that Anara healthy. One of the best combos to have for a team that just wants to chill out on the point. And it's going to be, can Renegades, can this Tyra, and whatever damage they pair with it, melt through not only the wall, but the Damba healing as well as just that giant health pool. All the while, you have Freeze God on an Eevee blinking around you, pouring down damage, and Sadak on the Con buying some space. I think Renegades have a good draft here. I actually would like the Pip and the Genos to be locked in, because up to this point, Pip has been such a team-dependent champion where, you know, you just may never see it because this team doesn't like to play it. But at the end of the day, he is such a good duelist with a game-changing ultimate. You hit a good Evil Mojo, you suddenly flip a losing fight right around on its head. So I like this. At the end of the day, for me, though, it's a can Shadow play the Pip? Because that's where it stands is, you know, some teams play it great. You have to look at Bittner, you know, other people in that conversation. Can Shadow play the Pip just as well? If he can, I actually like this Renegades draft. Certainly
could work for them, but does he get all the use out of the mobility of Pip? I mean, lots of small areas, so could be tough there potentially for him. Space Station's hovering a second blaster here. Eevee and Drogo's together would be a bit of an interesting combination. They're going to lock it in and give it a shot here. Do you think this could run into some problems for them, or do you like it in the confined spaces of Bright Marsh?
Yeah, it's a really good way you word that, because it's when you get down to like the nitty-gritty, we have people going at it on the point. Renegades are probably going to win that matchup, but if at the end of the day, if all you have is a Tyra to not only deal with an Eevee, but also a Drogo's, you know, some supplemental damage from elsewhere, that's a lot of presence to put on Invocal. He now has 2 blasters that he really has to focus on.
Could be tough for the Renegades here. They're looking to stymie this lead that Space Station has and get it back to even. So over to the casters are 2 bumps on a log. Gore and Nick.
Appreciate
Is that
it
an
there.
insult?
I'm not sure.
To be a bump on a log?
Bump on. What about a frog on a log? Where would you rather be?
Frog on a log and a hole in the bottom of the sea?
Well, from our very own classic Coca-Cola vanilla white bed sheet drinking ass looking aggro on the desk trying to throw that shade as we get into game number 4 here. What can we really expect here from the Renegades? I liked this draft until I
Yeah.
saw the double blaster.
I don't know how Ares plays either of those champions.
Yeah.
I'm assuming he's going to be on
Probably
Drogo's because I
Drogo,
can't
yeah.
imagine telling Freeze God to sit down on the Eevee for a game. And I don't know if I've ever seen him play it. Like, I don't. We have hours of footage on SSG in Brazil when it's like 4-0 stomps, you know they're going to win. I don't even think he played it then. Like, they played consistently. Champions, they were, I guess, well, at that point, he was always playing frontline. So I don't know what to expect this game. It's kind of perplexed me.
Well, here we go, rocking and rolling out. It will be
That is
Freeze God
Freeze God.
on the Drogos, trying to get up here and control the high ground. Pip does good when he can shoot down on things, but now he's going to have to shoot up on stuff.
He's going to have to get up to shoot down on things, but also have to pay attention to above them, which is the scary part. Where it's when you're fighting in a 3D space like this, like it is that difficulty. Like a lot of champions don't make you have that decision of having to look up, so a lot of it will fight on kind of just the ground level. But it is going to be Drogo's causing a lot of trouble, and Pip is not known for being able to take him out of the air.
And this is what we're talking about. This Tyra, her range just isn't quite there to contest Freeze God from, as far away as she's realistically going to be fighting. 90% on the objective for Space Station. Drogos turns his sights to the point. The wall goes up as Space Station look to just put their foot down and grab the first point here on Bright Marsh. And it looks like they may just, nice body block there, and it's enough combined with the Commander's grab. They keep Moonchopper at bay long enough for the first payload to go their way.
I'm sorry, my mind is still trying to piece itself together after seeing Ares' name floating above an Eevee on a team with Freeze God. Like, it's just not something that happens ever. So it's just perplexing, but it's also showcasing, I think, the talents that he's been able to bring and something that they've been practicing. And Vocal is going to have a little bit of trouble overall. It's definitely something they've had to have picked up in the last week and a half or so.
Quick pause coming out here as Space Station falling back. It could be anything. Why do you think they paused the game here? Hopefully not another. I know a monitor issue was delaying us.
When if you notice, the interview was slightly to the, I guess technically the right of where it normally is. They were replacing Mittal's monitor.
Just a little bit of movie magic for you, Chad.
Movie magic,
you didn't
but
know
it
you were
was,
getting fooled by Gormons all along.
It was interesting to kind of, again, be in that environment where it's like, cool, there's, something like you're having that changed out. For Mittal, I don't know what that means, because I can't remember if it's SSG or Renegades. Like one of these teams plays on some really, really weird monitor settings. Like they have colorblind mode. They change the dimness, things like that. So that will impact time between games when you're changing those up.
Nothing will ever be as weird as War Doom. And do you remember War Doom at all?
I remember War Doom.
Yeah, he used to have a piece of just college-ruled paper that he would put up on his screen, and he would adjust his resolution to be the exact size of that college-ruled piece of notebook paper, and that's what he would play on every single time. He had the weirdest settings of any gamer I've ever seen. Period.
That's a first. I've never heard of anyone designing their monitor or their game size to be college rule paper. But I mean, I guess depending on what he's been doing, if that's the size of things he's used to looking at, maybe he's writing a lot of essays or something. It's just got to keep it uniform.
Well, Salvo's primed and ready to go. We've watched mostly Freeze God's Drogos here, and kind of a couple of oddities across the board. Pip is not overly common for Shadow, but it's a power pick, I think, for a lot of teams in this league, and one that they could absolutely use to their benefit. Ares is... instinctively said Freeze God there. Ares is Eevee. That's the biggest question mark of them all. What will he be able to accomplish on this character, one that he does not play very often?
I mean, so far it's been doing...
if ever.
Standard, I would say, and that's kind of what I would want out of him. I don't want him to pop off and go insane. 1, 2, and 3, dealing right in the middle of the pack damage. Obviously the game's going to be a lot faster if he just goes insane on this champion, but considering how often I've seen him play it, which I can count on a single hand, I would assume this is going to be a comfort, or not a comfort pick, but like a, let's just keep you rolling. Like, you're not going to do poorly, you're not going to do great. You're just the distraction factor for potentially Freeze God to just blow up.
Salvo's ready to go once again, trying to find a good opening onto one of these frontliners. Honestly, rips apart half that barrack shield the second it goes out, and he skirts just inside of this little hut to make sure that he stays alive. Sadak Aries cleaning up 3 more members of the Renegades as we head into overtime. A lot of different ultimates charged for SSG. I absolutely feel like they have the firepower to convert this payload if they only will it.
There's that snakeskin. If anyone was wondering what I was talking about earlier, the wizard hat, the beard, it's come through. He's got the pipe. Everything
Oh, yeah, he does.
is fantastic about this one. And I feel like that's going to help out this Dread Serpent as it comes through, because you get to see it in big mode. That snake comes through, Dread Serpent's good, and they're looking to push this in.
Stun, and I think Moonchopper's just inside, but the crowd control and honestly the chopper control here, they are phenomenal right now. Spacestation using every tool they have to be able to move these Renegades frontliners where they want them to be, long enough to capture payloads, long enough to convert payloads. I mean, this is incredible what Sadak and Rashao have been able to do in the first round.
I mean, Sadak looked like that was just another day in the park. Like, there's nothing different to him. He seems nonplussed about everything right now. And this is 100% the frontline show. Like, you're having a lot of good damage come down from Drogoz, a lot of good damage come down from Eevee, but the kills are all coming up one way or the other, and I've seen Rashao and Sadak's name on this kill feed more than I think anybody else on SSG this game.
Well, into round 2 and up 2-0. Space Station Gaming lead the set 2-1 as well. Sadak 7-1. Power picks, baby. It's all about the con for Matthias as he loads in for another round. 95% on the overpower, fully charged. Might look to pluck this Pip. I'm not sure who he wants to surgically remove, and Pip will be the selection. He's trying to get out of line of sight here. Needs to dunk this Pip. Shadow gets out of the overpower, heals himself back up, and he is not out of this fight yet.
And he still has an Evil Mojo as well. A couple of good shots onto that Eevee might spell her defeat. Rashao, Freeze God going down. This is a beautiful fight from the Renegades.
What a response there. The second, Sadak pulls in one of their own. Mark him up, start burning him down. I love the response from the Renegades. Very, very nicely done. Comeback mechanic is going to be something that's very difficult for them to fight against. They're positioned very nicely. It looks like Evil Mojo won't find a home. Seismic Crash stuns out 2 or 3 as Dragon Punch comes roaring over the top for the touch, but Viral just left clicks it down. No problem. No help needed. The support plenty capable of dealing with the Dragon.
I would argue that's the equivalent of staring at a train that's about to barrel you over, and you're just like, I'm not moving, train. You can run me over, but this is not going to
It's viral, man. You know that Billy Reddy gif he always posts on Twitter, the buff dude ripping his shirt off? That's viral right then
That's
and there.
what he wants.
He just stares down Freeze God, rips his shirt off, and says, come at me, brother. I'm fully prepared for this situation head-to-head. What a matchup there. Nice stuff from Viral, knowing that he can win that one before he gets taken out. 2 minutes on the clock for the Renegades to try and even up the scoreboard. Again, same scenario, split stone. If Space Station hold, they'll go up 3-1.
And that's going to be the big important fact. But it's a lot easier to get this one pushed in than on split stone, and that's going to be the big note for Renegades. Moonchopper goes down, though. Shadow going down also puts a big damper on this one. 1:43, so they've got plenty of time to work with. But you can always feel like, I want to say, a little more rushed if you're Renegades here, and I think that's kind of the feel they emit. They want to get this done because they want to show to themselves not only that they can do it, but they want to get to the next point. They want to keep going.
Hell of a sequence there from Freeze God on the Drogoz. Rips another salvo to the back line, and he's already got that Dragon Punch recharged. And, when you get taken out mid-flight like he was, you don't get that 30% back. You got to start from ground zero, baby.
Yeah.
This just goes to show how much damage he's really able to put out. Chopper, I don't know where he was going, but kind of ripped apart there, trying to get back towards the payload. And that 2 minutes has turned into 1 minute now. The Renegades still trying to find a way to get their feet back under them.
Just flying around, Wormjets is such a great thing on this map. Because, I mean, again, look at how hard it is to hit him. Hero going to
nice
be putting
shot,
his name
Hero.
in there just to take him down. You can see Shadow not going to be the one that's targeting that Drogoz. As long as he stays up there, he's mostly safe.
Well, Evil Mojo's ready to go. Sadak walks over Invoco, but he's going to lose his life for it. 2 more for the Renegades. Nice responses. Fluttering in and out of the room. It's not enough. Shadow bides his time and finds the lethal shot on Ares as well. And just like that, the Renegades are in a position to convert and tie up this game. I foresee SSG having to pop a couple of ults.
Yeah, at this point, they're going to have to throw one, especially with an Evil Mojo coming out, but it's not going to connect with anybody. It's not going to make a difference, and now you have the seismic crash. Everything's getting thrown out.
You got to stop Evil Mojoing the Sonar. I mean, Rashao is too quick. A 1-for-1 is going to be in favor of the defense. Another salvo, some more damage. Fire Spit's ready to go. Barely even needs it. This team fight is done and dusted for Space Station Gaming. I mean, whether it's Earthen Guard, whether it's Seismic Crash, doesn't matter. I feel like Inara is just not a good target for Evil Mojo at this point.
No, that's CC immunity. It's definitely something that, in my mind, might be carrying over to Shadow from older patches, because it used to, man, you would just knock her down.
You used to go through Earthen Guard, yeah.
Yeah, but now you have to recognize that CC immunity is CC immunity, and she's not going to care about it. And I think that's the biggest thing right now, is Rachao is the easiest and most obvious target for an Evil Mojo. It's not connecting on him. Sadak seems to be shrugging it off if he is in the area when it happens, so you have to figure out who you want to target more. Ares isn't an easy target to hit. Freeze God's not going to be an easy target to hit, so there's almost no one for that Evil Mojo.
Freeze God had a lot to say to his squad, and that player cam there just kind of watching his communications in between rounds now as 1 point separates Space Station Gaming. Yet another victory over the Renegades. Lots of ultimates ready to go, everything except Seismic Crash. Evil Mojo and Assert Dominance spent for the Renegades. Dragon Punch ready and primed to go. Has not been pulled just yet.
A couple of good shots. So triple kill to end the round from Freeze God. He's looking for one to start the round, but just trying to figure out where to go. Tyra is such a pain for him to deal with. And that's why he likes to hang out back here.
There it is, another overpower. Will Sadak be punished this time? No, sir, indeed. Moonchopper goes down for free. Viral actually clips the point tank with the time and space. Rashao loses his life before he can get back to the safety of his team.
Freeze God going to be flanking around, going to get the kill onto Shadow, so it's going to be overall even trades, but I'd say Space Station actually coming out worse for wear because they lose both of their tanks on that fight. Now they're trying to dance around. It's 74% with this comeback mechanic. Someone's going to have to touch it if they want to stop it.
Well, Dragon Punch is ready to go. The Dome Shield drops and right on cue. Freeze God comes ripping through with the Dragon Punch. He dies for it, but he drops the Dome Shield. Nice wall from Rashao to make sure this one has a chance. And finally, the CC immunity is not there, but the resilience is. Nobody has died to Evil Mojo this game, and that is a problem.
And this damage just isn't making a difference. That's going to be a great Seismic Crash to buy time. Some good kills right here. No one can touch.
No, sir, indeed. SSG kind of quietly, confidently walk away with Bright Marsh, moving ahead to a 3-1 lead. And they're set against the Renegades. Again, a couple things not really hitting the mark for me. One of them, Evil Mojo.
Those Evil Mojos.
Were not hitting the mark there for Shadow, unfortunately. SSG take a risk, to be honest. I mean, that's a comp we never see them run, but again, I want to reiterate, I feel like that was a great response to what the Renegades drafted.
And we didn't get to see him often. Ares was just, again, he was just performing. He wasn't overperforming. He wasn't doing crazy pop-offs. He wasn't dying a million times. He was just kind of steady.
Yeah.
A little bit of damage here, a little bit of distraction there. Playing
not
like
feeding.
A standard Eevee.
All right, well, let's get it back up to the desk and our favorite fat egg, Aggro and Dave.
Hey, it's me. Well, I don't know why you'd call Dave that, but it's fine, I guess. I mean, it's just kind of rude in my mind. It's fine. Dave.
Yeah, that's okay.
Less fine are the Renegades after another tough loss here. You mentioned the
Good
Pip
stuff.
has got to be an impact factor in this game, and you heard Nick say it towards the very end there.
Yep.
That I don't know if a single person died to Evil Mojo all game.
I don't think they did. He was hitting Evil Mojos, but the follow-up just wasn't there. And one thing you kind of levied towards me was double blaster, how it will work out. And it's an interesting prospect because, one tends to do very well because you can utilize the mobility, yada yada, the reason you play either of those blasters. But two blasters in a matchup where you're going to basically leave Rashao and Mitau and Sadak on the ground floor fighting for themselves while you're soaring through the air, trying to find picks. Like, that's the big question. It ended up not really being all that impactful. Shadow had a fine game, 7-4-12. But at the end of the day, regardless of not being on the ground floor, the damage and the big plays from Freeze God and Ares, I mean, you don't get to see him on Eevee all that often, but both of them time and time again we're just making the Renegades pay. And honestly, at the end of the day, it's nothing more than Drogos is really annoying to play against because he just flies above you and you can never ignore him. And
Tell me about it.
Eevee is really annoying to play against because, you know, not as ever present in the air, but you always have to take mind of where you are, where the Eevee is. So it's like you have somebody up in the air and you have somebody else that you don't know where they are half the time. And they just couldn't win the fights because of it. They didn't have the ability to lock down that mobility that Space Station Gaming brought, and that's where the Renegades fell short.
Feels like Drogos is like that yellow jacket or wasp that you're always like really wary of that's hovering near you when you're like having a picnic, and then Eevee is the fly that is just like real quick around you. You like can't get it off of you.
Both of them are annoying though.
Yeah, I don't want either one of those anywhere near my picnic is what I'm saying, and Renegades had their picnic ruined by those two picks this time around. So now, I mean, you're down 3-1. Where do you go from here?
Well, you have to go game by game. I mean, at the end of the day, it's hard not to because it is the case, but you have to look at it as all right, let's win one.
Sure.
Now it's 3-2. Let's win another. Now we're tied up at 3. At the end, you cannot look at it as we need to win 3 straight because we've only seen it once, and it was Envy went up 3-1, and then Not V were able to answer back with all 3. So they're back on their map pick. They picked Bright Marsh. Didn't quite go in. I think they picked Bright Marsh. Didn't go in their favor. And so now they're back on their map pick, but now we're at the point where we're getting towards the bottom of your map pool. It's not like these are the maps that you bring out first, like we are going to beat you here. This is I guess we're pretty good at this map. We had
a good game on scrims like a week ago on this map, so maybe we try it out.
Right, and that's just the way it goes further on. So mentality-wise, it has to be a one game at a time sort of basis, and it's not even so much like the picks have been like bad on their side. It's just like they're one step behind. You look at Splitstone, and you're going to have a free-firing Vivian. How are you going to deal with that? And they didn't have an answer for that question. All right, now you're going against Double Blaster, Double Mobility. How are you going to deal with that? They have a traditionally good draft in both of those games.
Sure.
But just that little extra caveat doesn't have an answer and hasn't really had an answer in these past 2 games. What worked so well for them in their win in this set on Stone Keep was they were the ones levying those questions to Space Station. We were saying, all right, we have a Makoa Barrack. How are you going to deal with it? Space Station answered, but it wasn't enough of an answer. I mean, when you're able to blow up the Sky and the Cassie, not able to shred down your tanks, then that's your win condition. So it's really been, although the drafts haven't been bad by any means from Renegades, Space Station's been dictating the play style of the game. They've been making Renegades answer.
Certainly the case, and maybe you see Invocal go back to something like the Victor, not necessarily the Victor, but just a plant and shoot sort of character.
Right.
In Shattered Desert, can you get it done here with that sort of style?
Yeah, I would say we've absolutely seen some Tyra, absolutely seen some Vivian on a map like that. I did. I liked the Victor pick, and it worked out so well. Granted, it was into a matchup where so much of the focus was on Makoa and Barrack, but there's no, I don't know what the word I'm looking for. Victor is not bad in my eyes. I think he has some guaranteed damage. He has just sort of like you said, you plant and you shoot, and that's what he does. And that's what Invocal is so good at on the Cassie and the Leon as well. So, you know, again, it may be throwing something interesting out there. I think SSG maybe playing themselves a little bit on that Stone Keep game, really leaning into the Sky pick that didn't work out. Again, though, leaning Ashe over Khan, that's now been 2 in a row where they've done that, and it hasn't been highly detrimental, but in my eyes, it's more, why do you let Sadak get Khan again?
Right.
Rather than, like, you know, Ashe and Khan are both sort of in a similar, you know, tier in my eyes, but it's more so that Sadak is just better at Khan, I think, and that's a lot to give up.
I agree with the way that he's played it today. It's tough to swallow the pill of giving it to him this many games in a row. Khan Genos off the board right away, and Genos is just such a good enabler that now if you're Renegades, you feel like you kind of have to take Barrack to make sure that they don't get that Barrack-Genos combo that they had earlier on today. I mean,
it seems that way.
Yeah, you kind of feel like you have to, right?
It seems like just for the... Right, it's sort of a 2-prong where you're taking it away. You're not allowing Barrack Genos to go through to SSG, but you're also adding a little extra staying power, which against a Genos composition is never a bad thing. You're going to need it in the Ashe. So I would think a Barrack pick would be good here. And Nara as well wouldn't be horrible, but I think if you're looking at what they have on the opposite side with Genos, Barrack has a higher potential to hurt you with Genos at his back than maybe an Inara does, because Genos, Khan, Barrack, those three are tough to play against. I like the Maeve. The Midnight, just such an effective ultimate. There's the Barrack that we talked about. I think that's a smart pick. So yet again, I mean, this has been the story up to this point. Renegades have a good draft going their way. It's just, it depends what SSG throw at them, if they throw anything, and what Renegades are able to answer with.
Yeah, I really like these 2 picks, honestly, for Renegades. I mean, you take the Maeve Genos away, that's been really popular, because you look at what Space Station did to them on, what was that, Splitstone, where they go Khan, Genos, Maeve, Barrack, and who cares what else, because they're just doing whatever they want to you on that point.
Right.
You take away 2 of those linchpins to that composition, and now Space Station, I mean, you can go Inara, Tyra here. I imagine you're taking Tyra basically no matter what, but that can be vulnerable against the Maeve.
Yeah, that would be smart. And this is a map Shattered Desert where mobility is key. I mean, you have this point in the middle, not a lot of cover on that point, and then it's basically a giant circle around the outside. So having extra mobility in this situation is good. So I still think Renegades have a good first 3 picks. But now the question that I always keep talking about, Space Station have levied the question of, all right, how are you going to sustain or deal with the hyper damage boost that is a Genos Tyra? Because on the opposite side, Renegades are saying, all right, we're going to have Ashe Barrack, we're going to have staying power, we're going to have a little aggression from the front line, and Space Station say, okay, well, we'll double damage amp and we'll be able to melt away at some of your front lines. So Renegades now, that's where they look. How do you answer back the double damage amp? Honestly, I think Furia would be a fine pick here. You combine and inflame with a Midnight, and you have a sudden team fight that not only can you not see, but the people who are attacking you are stronger and faster. So again, I think the Renegades are drafting themselves just fine.
Sure.
But still, Genos Tyra is Genos Tyra. It's hard not to give a slight edge to that side.
Cassie is finalized here by Renegades, and Furia also finalized for them, so that draft is all complete. Space Station, now you're looking for potentially a Drogos. No, instead they're going to go to the Leon and just get some more outright or just DPS with this selection, and that combined with the Genos again, it's just a matter of, can this Fernando stay up? And Nick talked a lot about his self-sustain on the point and the way that he can get back up. But I think he's going to need it here against the amount of damage that Renegades have.
Agreed. They definitely have a composition that plays, I would say, well into what SSG are bringing. Furia is sort of where this teeters on the edge. I mean, some of the highest healing in the game, but at the end of the day, it's a skill shot heal. I mean, that giant pyre is where 99% of your healing comes from. So if you're able to hit those, healing beams over and over and over and over again, you're going to be able to withstand Leon, Tyra, Genos. But if the healing isn't as consistent, that's when you get overtaken.
All right, let's over to the casters. It's the phenomenal Gormizer and one of Skillshot's premier talent, the Sultan of Speaking, the King of Calls. Dolson, you're with me.
I'm with you.
Nick, that's fine too.
You goddamn right.
I was looking to see your reaction. You were just kind of processing. You're like,
I'm sitting there
you're
like,
right, it's
haha,
me.
yes. I mean, that's a top 10 anime betrayal right there.
Top 10 anime betrayals.
Here I am on the chopping block, loading into Shattered Desert. What could be the final game, and if it is aggro, then it is I that get the final throw to D. Formidable, though. Regenerate 55% of your max health over 3 seconds when you fall below 40%. That is that self-sustained talent that has proven to be so valuable when all you've got is a Genos behind you as a Fernando point tank.
Just keep him alive, keep him rolling, and keep him moving forward. He also does a pretty good chunk of damage. Of course, you can't forget Immortal. But Fernando is sustaining in a different way than Inara sustains, in a different way than Barrack sustains. It's just kind of really, really hoping that Genos behind you is going to keep you going.
There it is, 39% on the objective already for Space Station Gaming. Firing bolt after bolt after bolt, but Shadow has not really gotten too aggressive here. He's really just kind of played this corner, played a passive role so far this round. And as Space Station head north of 80% on the objective, You gotta see something. You gotta show us something, Renegades here, or this one's just simply gonna go quietly in favor of SSG. First blood in favor of the boys in black and gold.
As a map that you're picking as the Renegades to try and take them down, I feel like they might have gotten the wrong message from the Shattered Desert map we saw earlier today. SSG played it incredibly well. Na'Vi just played, well, equally as well. Both of them fighting from the point a lot, and I feel like that's what you're seeing here. SSG just go up, they park on the point, and they're like, cool, fight us.
A disgusting game earlier today from Freeze Gods Leon. Let's take a look at the damage charts as he is on average about 40% above everyone else in terms of ultimate charge. People were rounding the 50 to 60% mark when he hit fully charged. He's 6,000 ahead of the next closest person in this game, teammate or not. Freeze God is ready to play this, and this might have been something that I think went a little bit under the radar as far as what Renegades expected from them.
And it's something that we saw earlier do really well without a Tyra boost. Like, it was one of the things where Ares wasn't that comfortable. We've seen it do well with that damage amp, and now you have something that already melts tanks, melting things even harder.
You're a Yu-Gi-Oh guy, so I mean, they ban out the Eevee, they pick the Cassie, they pick the Maeve. Did they activate Freeze God's trap card in Leon?
Activated his trap card. That's exactly what it is. It's just you're trying to ban out a guy that has learned enough champions in this game that you can't ban him out. Like, you shouldn't target him anymore, but you kind of still have to target him.
First overpower of what is likely to be many comes through on a hero, and he just allows his teammates to completely do all the damage to get the kill there. It's almost like a free little way to ult charge, like little cute ult boost for the boys, and that's something you want to play around.
Ult
Cassie
boost for the boys.
rolls in. I'm with my boys, and rolling through into the jaws of Sadaq's Khan. You know how this movie goes, Chad. It doesn't end well for our poor hero, Cassie, as she meets with an untimely end here. Chopper does as well. 48 on the clock. Space Station with some resources to work with. Big damage from Freeze Gods Leon. That's nothing new either. Final corner is officially rounded here as the payload starts down the home stretch.
And this angle is perfect because it's making probably the safest place for Renegades to try and fight, the most dangerous for them to try and fight. Moonchopper tries to get aggressive, and Moonchopper pays for it with his life. They just are doing whatever they can on the side of Renegades, and SSG are prepared for it more than ever.
What a nut. Man, that Immortal was so good. Keeps almost everybody safe. Freeze God didn't even really need it. It wasn't exactly even in range. Perfectly timed shield goes up. Rashao is playing this Fernando beautifully. He's not the win condition, but he has certainly lifted and opened the door to a Space Station conversion. He opens the door, and Mr. Freeze steps right on through, and ice cold. He doesn't miss a single shot, not a single ability. Quick sip of the water, and he's back to business.
That was one of the most insane segments of Leon play I think I have ever seen. And there are good ones. Like, there's fun to watch the resets, which won't happen as much now, but that was just pure aim. That was nothing more than some guy like sitting down and moving his mouse around. Like, at its essence, it was amazing.
And again, this is the guy that was one banned, two of the picks from the Renegades. Obviously, they're good in their own right, but it feels like an attack, some way to displace Freeze God, to get him uncomfortable. We saw this earlier today, so maybe it was something that slipped under the radar for them, but it is a 7-1 performance through the first round. Very, very rock-solid stuff. I don't expect it to slow down here for SSG. Want to give credit before we move on to Rashao for setting that up. A great Immortal, gets the shield up perfectly, buys so much time, so much room for Freeze God to go to work, and the rest of SSG to continue to do their thing.
Oh, what a good Void Grip going for the Enlightenment. He finds the shot mid-air. Moonchopper
Blind.
That was just exactly what you needed. Like, you didn't even need to see him to find that shot. Unfortunately for SSG, well, that was the only hype play they got that right. Everything else comes up Renegades right afterward. And comeback mechanic, this is theirs.
Yeah, like it or not, you know, Moonchopper doesn't get the assert dominance off, but he does get all 5 sets of eyes from Space Station to sort of look at him and lull them into a corner. Renegades absolutely capitalize on the way that Space Station played that fight. And they're going to get, with the comeback mechanic behind them, and just a quick capture, and off to the races they will go.
Putting up potentially the ability to tie up the game and keep themselves in this set a little more solidly than they have been so far. I'd say they're sitting on kind of shaky ice. They can feel the cracks coming out beneath them, but they haven't fallen through to the freezing water yet. The question is whether or not they can kind of find the next step they want to take, or if they're going to get taken down. A nice turnaround, nice shots from Freeze God. I think it's an understatement to say he's really good at Leon. But Renegades right now are answering back in a way that we haven't seen pretty much since game 2.
There it is, 1:30 on the clock, but SSG digging the heels, and now they're starting to surge forward into Renegades territory, staggering out Moonchopper, albeit giving him a little bit of ultimate charge. It's the one con of staggering out a front line like that is they do get to kind of just chip away at health bars, albeit in vain, but they do get to recharge those very, sometimes in the in the case of Ancient Rage and Dome Shields and things like that, very slow charging ults, so every little bit helps.
Now they get to be the ones who are the answers. They get to push back and see how hard they can go. And again, just shift the line of scrimmage as far towards the Renegade side of the map as possible. Make it by time whether or not you win or lose the next fight so that it takes longer to get to the payload. It's already halfway there. Based on what I'm seeing right now, it doesn't look like it's going to get too much further, but Renegades are grouping up on the right-hand side on like, well, I want to say desert side, but I feel like that's pretty much every single side of the map.
Freeze God crushes home an 1100 damage presence to put Maeve on the back foot. She's running around a little bit scared. Plenty of damage up in the sky. The anti-flank, Leon, has stepped back into the realm full force. And I wonder if we won't start seeing a little bit more of her. A couple of guys have had some seriously good performances, and Freeze God is rolling off to the races, re-displaying how important and how devastating this character can be when she gets off ahead.
And just playing her to the T, right? Showcasing that nerf really didn't affect her, I think, anywhere near as bad as people were reacting to for her. And now you're seeing her still win these 1v1s, still win some 2v1s, and I mean, for FRZ God, still winning some 3v1s here. Shadow finally gets the best of them, but it's not going to be enough to get them back anywhere near that payload.
3-1, Assert Dominance not quite ready to go. However, all other 9 ultimates are. Let's take a look here at Resilience, because if they don't have Assert Dominance, they're not going to have a really great time at initiating these team fights. If you're the Renegades, sorry if that wasn't clear, but you got Midnight. If that's mitigated by Resilience, you got Scout. What's that really doing for you? Inflame's a nice damage buff, but it's not going to slow Space Station down and prevent them doing what they want to do. I don't know. In terms of this overall suite of ultimates, do you feel Space Station has an advantage?
I think so, mainly because you never count on Through Time and Space hitting, but just being able to corral people and put them in line for someone like Freeze God to then pick them off, I think it's going to set them up. You've got Overpower, you've got Immortal. Like, one get out of jail free card and one get me a kill free card. Everything is going to line up for them. But it depends on how they use them and if any of them whiff. Like, that Overpower could very easily just not connect.
Early poke ward does not go the way of Freeze God. Self-sustain keeps Fernando up and alive, grabs at the frontliner, brings him down into the ditch, shuts down what could be the only ultimate that was a saving grace for the Renegades. Time and Space doesn't connect with anyone. 30% on the objective. Space Station in control, but this fight far from over.
Doing whatever they can, and again, you're looking at Renegades all grouped up, all clustered in one area, and that's where FRZ has actually been able to just showcase. But this time he gets taken down before he can do anything with it.
Maybe a bit of an overextension. Everybody wanted to kill Viral there.
No.
He times his Enflame beautifully. The counter engage from the Renegades is perfect. Such a well-constructed team fight from them. They really baited Space Station Gaming into a false sense of security, and the counter punch hits so hard. They're back on the objective. Space Station, I don't know if they have the mobility to get back here and contest in time.
Yeah, comeback mechanic is definitely a pain to play against. No one's going to be able to touch it. That's going to be all she wrote, at least for that point fight. Now Renegades have another chance. They can try to tie it up. They can take what they want. They've adapted perfectly to what SSG have been trying to dish out. But I would also argue what you said was 100% correct. They just overextended. SSG tried to take the fight too far to them, and they didn't do it successfully.
Yeah, I really do approve that risk, to be honest. It doesn't pay off there, but I think the payoff is you saw how grouped the Renegades were in that back corner.
Yeah.
It's not enough to get the overpower and get that kill a lot of times. If you allow that clean 4-man disengage and nothing else happens, nobody else gets staggered, then Renegades have a really good shot at just kind of coming back. Yeah, they're going to be down 30%, 40% maybe, but at the end of the day, they're still getting what they wanted. They're still getting another clean shot at this point. So you have to go in there. You have to try and get a little bit more.
Freeze God, he's just so good at this game. There's so many moments where it's just like, you should not be winning this fight. But
Yeah,
then
why
he's
is he
turning it
dead
around.
right now, Gore, huh?
because it was a 2v1. And they barely managed to get out of there without losing someone. That's the thing, is like, Cassie skirts around the edge. The only reason he stops looking at her is because she's got cover. He turns to look at Barrick, almost kills Barrick, is lucky the shield is up to be able to be dropped, and then Cassie comes out from behind. Like, he just does this really well. But the same thing can be said about Shadow right now on this Cassie. It can be said about Invocal. I think on literally any champion Invocal plays, in any game that he plays, whether they're winning or losing, he always performs. And right now, that's what they need to be able to push this in.
Another in-flame-fueled team fight spells victory for the Renegades as they pass just about the halfway mark on their payload push, but with plenty of time left on the clock to take a quick fight here, even really get wiped and have a chance to come back. Obviously, they're going to try to skip the getting wiped part. Dome Shield comes down from the Renegades. They want to go for this now.
They're just doing whatever they can. Good shot so far from Shadow. The Dome Shield just creates some space, but I don't know if it's going to be enough. Right now, SSG, though, they're locked in their base. They get a kill on Hero. Sadok trades it out. And the question is whether or not they're going to have it. Jeez, Ares just gets erased. No one is ready for that.
There it is. Immortal comes out. Space Station trying to stabilize. Kneel before me as Freeze God grabs one. Freeze grabs two. He wants more. He's going to grab three. Mitao throws his name into the conversation before Freeze God can finish the meal in front of him. Renegades slapped off the face of the map. Shattered Desert not coming to an end just yet. No points are awarded for that defense. Space Station Gaming have got to capture a point if they want to close this set.
And they're still in position to do so. They just have to approach this fight. Again, learning something from the last two rounds when they haven't been able to capture it. Unfortunately, there's still going to be a form of comeback mechanic there for the Renegades, but it's not going to be nearly as bad as what they've had to face. It's going to be half as fast, but still a little faster than what SSG are going to cap. It's 4% every other tick for this round for the Renegades only. So that's going to be the big thing, is playing against the timer, having to deal with that, and admittedly that also means having to play against the way Invocal's playing. You need your anti-flank to, well, anti-flank. And unfortunately, Freeze God was locked down elsewhere during that fight. Otherwise, it might have been a different story.
2-3 is the scoreboard. Slash lines starting to equalize a little bit. Moonchopper having to do the dirty work this time around. A lot of counter matchups, void grips, commander's grabs, things like that are difficult to play against. Difficult to get your Ashe ultimates off and have a successful dive. No early leads for anyone. Freeze still on his horse, looking for an angle. Shadow spotted him out. Overpower comes through. If anyone from the Renegades moves forward to try and bail him out, Freeze has a very unique angle. Sadok lives with literally 1 HP, and this is the lead that SSG wanted to press. They get their overpower, but they need to get this kill. They need to get something else. Everyone extremely low. Presence gets blocked off by the barricade. Renegades put the gloves up and hold on.
Just doing whatever they can, but SSG are doing, well, the same thing they've been doing all day. They're playing from the point. They've got 66% to Renegades now 3 as they finally step on. Hero gets 1 kill, but trades out his life for it. It's up to Invocal, it's up to Shadow to see what they can get out of this.
There it is, diving in once more. Invocal running out of cooldowns, running out of time.
Ooh.
But a fearless knife around the corner will be the final killing blow he needed to take down Freeze. Shadow claims Rashal's life. Half comeback mechanic enabled as Renegades look to take control of this round once more.
Mashing past that 66%, no problem, but it will still have time. SSG should be able to get a touch. It's just whether or not they can get a kill to open up the door and let them actually stand on that objective. The answer is no.
sir.
No one even gets there in time. Zoned out, dismounted, Hero doing his job beautifully.
Ringing the bell. Freeze God, lots of headshots on the barrack. One of the bigger head boxes in the game, but impressive nonetheless. 2:16 on the clock. Renegades will give this one more try. A conversion here would spell victory in this game, and they would get the go-ahead to force this set to a game 6.
Just doing whatever they can. 2 minutes to try and push this, which they've shown they haven't fully been able to do, but they've been able to get very, very close every time. SSG come out blazing with a defense almost every single time this has happened. But they have Midnight. They have Scout. They want to get the vision. Assert dominance. Dome Shield's about to come up. They have the ults to confirm this, and this payload's moved further faster than it has in any of the rounds.
Sadok ripped apart by Moonchopper. 137 left to get this one through, and the Renegades don't look like they're going to need all of it. Rashal hits the Immortal, trying to stabilize for his squad. Banner planted firmly in SSG's backline. Doesn't even care about that damage. Won't even look Freeze God in the eye as it passes by, and the Renegades claim it. Shattered Desert will go their way. Close, but no cigar for SSG. They'll have to play one more.
Well, they We're in control. That's one of those like few symptoms of just not being able to close out the game when they had the full lead. There were point fights that were in their favor, but Renegades just played out of their minds. Shadow and Invocal stepped up to the plate, knocked it out of the park. Hero is someone else I think has to be thrown onto that list because there were several times where that Barrack play was not only applying damage that made a big difference, but he was just pushed up, making sure to dismount, distract, do whatever he could to get people to look at him.
Yeah.
And his team was capturing the point behind him.
Again, it almost felt like the same story, just rewritten, right? That and Overpower comes through, they get that first kill, but then they really aren't able to get much more than that. Enflame pops counter engage from the Renegades, and that punch hits harder. Comeback mechanics get it going their way. Let's get it back up to the desk to hear from the guy that has never hit a Celestial Nighthawk shot.
Dave, that's you.
I don't run it, so yeah, that's me.
Couldn't be me. That's all I know.
No, let's hear from me then.
Yeah, let's hear from you.
I think I agree with what they were saying. At the end of the day, it's an interesting sort of dynamic where like the utilities provide an advantage to Renegades in team fights. If you have your ultimate suite up, I think Renegades have the advantage. On just a matchup, champion versus champion, no ultimates in the conversation, Genos Tyra stack with the Leon as well. And you saw that with like, Freeze God starting to pop off left and right. But again, it was the ultimate utility, the Midnight into the Inflame that bought so much space and so much of a presence. And then they still did more damage on top of it. I mean, 125,000 damage from Shadow, 111,000 from Invocal, 80-something thousand from Hero. That's enough to counteract a 20 and 10 slash line from Freeze God. And that's just, there's just too much focus on the Leon, basically. And I mean that from a Space Station perspective. They basically went all in on Freeze God being able to carry this one, and he did his job. He found 20 kills, but at the end of the day, there were a few times that I noticed where Space Station would basically tunnel vision, laser focus on one member of Space Station, and then all four of them would turn around, and the rest of the Renegades would have been shooting them in the back the entire time.
Right.
So while Space Station looked excellent to begin with, Moonchopper, Hero, the rest of the guys, they weathered that high damage storm that came out. They utilized the ultimates to a T. And like I said, one game at a time, you're looking down the barrel of a 3-1. Now, if you win this one, you're tied up at 3. I mean, there's light at the end of the tunnel now.
Certainly.
Because, I mean, they still have a hill to climb. Don't get me wrong. Now Space Station get to pick again. It is going to be Serpent Beach.
Yeah, I mean, we were a little bit questioning the Ash pick instead of the Khan. I think Moonchopper looked great on the Ash there. So Renegades kind of sticking to their guns, per se, and go with a draft that kind of fits their play style, and it works out well for them. But now you got to go to a Space Station map, and that's where it can get scary.
Map too.
Yeah.
And we sort of mentioned how, you get to map pick 6, you get to map pick 7, you're kind of getting out of your map's wheelhouse. But Space Station are still very good at Serpent Beach, and it's not that Renegades are bad, but it's like a Ascension Peak, maybe their best map, Splitstone Quarry, maybe their second best, and then Serpent Beach, they've just been able to go to their favorite maps, and they happen to be very good at all three of them. And I think that they have an edge on this map, just the way that they play sort of translates well to Serpent Beach. But Renegades, these are sort of those core maps where every team should be prepared to play on them. They're not these sort of new one-off maps, Ascension Peak, Waters Gate, Shattered Desert. Those are maps that you don't usually see in a set.
Sure.
Jaguar Falls, Serpent Beach, things like that, Bright Marsh even. Those are maps you should expect to see. So it's not necessarily one way or the other. Banning out the Maeve, giving Atlas back over to Sadak. Getting the Khan as an answer, but I think Atlas in his current state should be, and is in this case, slightly higher priority. Is it worth trading out the Maeve? She's good on here, but one way or the other, if you don't ban out the Maeve, you're going to give them the Khan as well. So as long as you're getting one or the other, I think Renegades will be happy.
Yeah, Renegades have the option at least, and they take the Khan and the Eevee in this scenario.
Yeah, true.
Now Space Station could be going Barrack here. Barrack's been such a big part of these winning compositions. I think Genos Barrack is exactly where I'd be looking, and it seems like that's what Space Station is also tuned into.
They got the binoculars pointed right in their direction, and I think that's smart. Normally it's been, Khan, Genos Barrack, but now Atlas, who does a ridiculous amount of damage anyway, a full rotation and exile into a setback, into a charged shot with a Genos on top of that will delete you if you're an Eevee or whatever other squishy damage dealer Renegades choose to pick out. So that's so much utility. I think a perfect rotation with full cooldown, you get 3 Genos marks with the first one timing out shortly after the third one goes down. So it's finding that rotation. It's not just sort of plug and play with Genos. You got to decide where you want to put those marks. But Barrack to bully the front line is a pretty favorite spot. Atlas for a little extra healing. And then again, it's healing dependent. If you see a low health bar, that's sort of where your mark needs to go. But Renegades, in a way, are at an advantage where they're going to be able to just show 2 slots and then leave that 5th pick open as sort of a counter pick to whatever SSG bring, because they haven't shown any damage dealers yet on the side of Space Station. So Renegades might elect to go frontline healer here and leave that last damage dealer open to flex. Space Station Gaming, you know, Cassie's still around. Drogos is really good on this map. Freeze
Tyra's
God is
still
great.
here.
Tyra as well. So, you know, Atlas Genos Barrack is very scary.
Sure.
And I still think that's the stronger first 3 picks that we see here. Adding Lilian there as well, I still think is a stronger 4. But the Renegades, you can at least see what they're working through here. Okay,
Sure.
we'll get the strong con. We'll get an Eevee to kind of counter out Freeze God. Buck would be interesting. I don't know
see
if
a
we're
lot of
being
Buck.
trolled.
Yeah, I mean,
you don't see any Buck. You
yeah.
rarely see Buck.
Now, last time I casted Paladins, Buck was the talk of the town. This was when you were still a Paladins babe,
Right.
Dawson.
I
You
was
were
right.
really no more than a thought in the mind, because this was a while ago, but he was, I mean, dominant back in that time, and they lock him in. And this one's
a 1% pick rate.
and this is a big game for Space Station. I mean, you cannot afford to lose to the Renegades here if you
Right.
want that second seed.
So Buck is going to be a self-sustaining, little bit of mobility with the heroic leap, high damage potential type of champion. Depending on the route that they go with this final pick, they have to be careful. He doesn't have the dive of, say, like a Maeve or of an Eevee, but he can get up in your face. He'll control this high ground. If he's able to jump up there, his self-heal is so heavy, it's hard to win those one-on-one duels, especially if you have a Genos mark at his back as well. There's lots of very good targets on the Space Station lineup for the Genos mark, whether you want it on your frontliners to really control that front line, Buck, Leon as well. I mean, any of the 4 other members of Space Station I think are worthy targets for this Astro mark. On the opposite side, Renegades, I mean, Invocal and Shadow, what else needs to be said? I think those 2 need to have a very good game. They need to keep their eyes peeled for this Buck, because he's going to just leap in, unload on you. Buck Wild is going to shred you from everything down to nothing if he's able to get it off. And then Khan really needs to go toe-to-toe with this Atlas in this matchup. It's going to be tough, not only because it's Atlas, but because he has Genos at his back. So I think that SSG have a winning lineup here. I think they could close it out.
Could be the deciding game here in Game 6. Let's throw it over to Gormizer and my esteemed friend and colleague, Nick Pretty Hair Kia.
Is that the proverbial white flag? I had one more. I had one more for him. You know, my feet are tired because I've been running through Aggro's mind all day long today, baby. It's all in jest. Aggro and I, best of buds at the end of the day. We just love to give each other a little jab, a little jib jab every once in a while. And as Buck is locked in, I just can't believe that he has a 1% pick rate and Moji had a 0%. I don't remember any Buck this season.
NIP played him. I don't even know what week it was, but it was a Timber Mill game. I don't even remember if they won that one. I didn't look at his win rate. I want to say maybe, probably, because it's NIP. But he's down there. Like, the only people who are picked less than him are, like, Lex.
Well, Freeze God is going to be able to try and find his way to the backline here. He's a flanker at heart. Aggro's right. There was a time where Buck just commanded the meta bans, first picks, all that type of stuff. Luminary, this is absolutely his Mac. 1,000+ damage headshots, and Vocal blows him up after grabbing just 1 kill. And Eevee in hot pursuit of Barrack, able to put out a good amount of damage. A quick pause will come through for the gentle lads of Space Station once more. Hopefully nothing too rough there over in the SSG booth. But talk to me a little bit about Buck, because I mean, you were here to see that dominant that character can absolutely have.
It's that moment. I mean, exactly what you were just saying. His headshot damage is ridiculous, but the biggest thing about Serpent Beach is his mobility. I would put it on par with like Maeve, not quite where Eevee. Like Maeve and Eevee are probably going to move around a little faster, a little better, but that's why he's so good on it. Is just he can jump from side to side to side. He is exactly what he needs to be. He's the flank to play on this map.
Yeah.
And Serpent Beach, you can't get above him. You can't get away from him. Like he's going to chase you down no matter what.
For sure. He's got the best self-sustain of those three flanks, but like you mentioned, it's at the cost of not being able to get out, really, once you get in. You kind of have to commit to that fight.
You jump in, you go, all right, boys, shotgun time, let's go.
Crack the knuckles and hope those 4 shells are enough, brother. Shadow blinks into the back line, blinks out now. Back to safety. You're right, he does have 5 shells now. Showing my age a little bit here with my Buck knowledge. Space Station Gaming trying to work their way back in. Renegades are in command of the objective for the time being. Barrett staying alive in this little sundial side of the map, but simply cannot contest the Nara at the moment.
I mean, just doing whatever they can. Unfortunately, whatever they can right now isn't a whole lot on the side of SSG. They're dancing around the objective, trying to find their way in. Freeze God's over there. They know where exactly. They're dialed in on that position, and it is not helping them at all. Renegades are looking to run this point. They're about to just capture this outright.
Well, one of the first things you have to learn about the Renegades is the addition of Shadow gave them an Eevee main. This is his first choice. This is where he is absolutely at his deadliest. And the Renegades, 5 strong, ultimates coming out. The Nictistics would tell us that this is a 100% chance to win because they pop their ultimates first, and they continue to show that dominance. And Vocal kills Sadak. Freeze God just trying to rotate out, but the Renegades looking like an absolute whirlwind on Serpent Beach so far, and this is SSG's map pick.
I mean, this is huge for them, and I think a lot of it comes down to what you highlighted, this Eevee that is going to be taking, I think, a little bit more precedent. Trying out the Buck in a game that admittedly is important. I feel like SSG would take a loss here, maybe apart. I don't know how it could affect a Game 7, but Renegades right now are just running them down. I don't think I've seen this amount of dominance from this team ever.
I mean, this is how they won on Stone Keep in terms of the draft. Yes, they let Sadak get a power pick, quote unquote, but they were able to match a power pick off tank of their own in Moonchopper's Khan. And you're just looking at weirder damage picks. I mean, Leon Buck is not something I would have put any amount of money on running. I would have put $1 million on them not picking this type of stuff today. It's just the fact that Renegades have forced them to go somewhere else today, and that gear shift maybe is causing them a little bit of trouble here. Nara, Void gripped up, slain, Space Station beginning to stabilize, but there's still plenty of time left on the clock.
You know, there's something today I'm learning that I had never realized before, and that is that Atlas's and Buck's silhouette look incredibly similar, and it is a little difficult to discern who's who depending on coming through. It's all on the left arm.
Just a couple of big boys running through the realm at the moment. Here's a quick look at the loadout. We don't see very often the Buck, so it's good to note this type of stuff. Very similar to the style you've seen before. All of these same cards were run back when Buck was meta, but what took him out of meta? Well, all of these cards kind of just got nerfed, and it wasn't quite as effective. Similar to Leon, still does what he does, just to a lesser degree. You've got both Freeze God and Ares on characters that are just not their former selves. You've got all of Renegades on power picks in this meta right now in mid-2019, and they are certainly playing like it. Renegades slam the first payload home on Serpent Beach and go up to nothing.
And they just have control. I mean, like you said, Leon has, I would argue, even though that she's been nerfed, Showcase, she still has a spot somewhere. This game doesn't seem to be it, but last game, the games before, have showcased how strong she can be. Buck is a different story only because he was so strong because he had a lot of damage reduction and a lot of healing. Like Moxie level healing with a Nara level damage reduction on an ability that would just let him go in and tank up anything you threw at him, heal it up if he didn't take it up, and then you couldn't kill him. Now it's a little easier to lock him down, and like you said earlier, once you go in, you're full committing. You either have to walk in so they get a lot more damage on you before you get into the fight, or you have to jump in, which means you have no escape to get out.
A couple of ultimates used from either side as the fight starts to break out here in round number 2. 2-0 is the lead for the Renegades Exile in the back line. A double exile onto Khan. So much time to rock and roll. Absolute lockdown onto Khan. What have they done with the time? What have they done with this space? Well, they've slain Inara, the Renegades falling back. Is this enough for Spacestation? Shattered Desert has plagued them, getting just that one kill and having to back off. But they don't lose anyone there. They almost lose Ares. A nice combo from distance from Cassie, and Midtow finds a better snipe to take down Invocal. Comeback mechanic puts them right back in the driver's seat.
And that's exactly what they needed. Shadow had the right call. It just came in a little bit too late. I don't think Renegades had much of a chance. Like, once that first kill came through, specifically onto Inara with the way everyone else was positioned, there wasn't anyone to take her place. There was no way to follow up with a couple of kills. And I think that's showing the deadly composition that could happen with SSG. The question I have is whether or not it's going to be regular. Are we going to see that come through when there's not an exile to make sure that you exile Moonchopper, then exile him again, then set him back in the one spot to make sure he stays in place? Like, he was CC'd for 5 to 7 seconds.
I know. He didn't even get to play. That team fight was wild. The amount of lockdown that an Atlas can provide is so crazy. And kill feed at this moment is all red. It is literally a clean sweep from the Renegades. They don't lose a single member. They spend a lot of ultimates for it, but that's totally fine at this stage of the round.
This is a scary prospect. We're seeing a different Renegades right now than I think we've seen. Like, this is the Renegades that was taking NIP to 4th place. This is the Renegades that we wanted to see 2 weeks ago.
But ain't that
never
just
showed
so
up
Renegades, man?
to do it on the last week.
Yeah.
The last set that they play of this split. And I mean, I said it earlier, the first and last split, or first and last week, their first and last game. They win 4-2 over Kanga in week 1. What are the odds they win 4-3 over SSG in week 13?
Well, it's just something they bring. Volatility. You never know what you're going to get from this Renegade squad, but you can always tell there's something there. Something this squad has to offer the PPL. And though this has definitely not been their split, you can see these moments of greatness against great teams like NIP and SSG, teams that have been able to get it done in the W column. Freeze God playing the buck, trying to make it work. Has his Luminary buff. Nice shot as he fades away out of this team fight. It's a great opener to try and get this one tied up. They want this conversion. They want to go into the next round 2-2.
A couple of good shots from Buck could make the big difference. Headshot onto someone like Cassie or someone like Vivi makes everything so much better. And there he's going to be able to get the kill on the Freeze God. Now he's just going to go buck wild and find any and every shot he can on this Inara.
That's 2,100 damage right there, boy. Back-to-back headshots from Buck Wild as the bell rings. Hero sent home probably a little bit sooner than he accounted for. That type of damage is just something you forget about when you have to deal with Buck. His headshots just hit so hard. Luminary, I don't even think was applied in that instance. Very, very potent champion. Nice fear from Viral here. A part of the one clean sweep team fight that the Renegades were able to grab over Spacestation Gaming.
That was just gorgeous from Renegades. And I think there's a lot of moments they've had that are like that. That's something that they've been really good. When I say moments, like when a team has a lot of moments, it's like those little glimpses where it's like you had 20 seconds of awesome play, and the question is whether or not you can keep it up. And right now, that's back against the wall, Renegades. Can they keep this up? Can they keep this Buck under locks? Can they let this EV run rampant? And how do they deal with this Atlas? Because as of right now, they are going to get pushed away.
The Renegades just back way the hell up when they hear that Atlas coming up over the top. And Scout actually prevents the Exile from landing. Nice counterplay there from Invocal. Here comes the fear to the high ground. Gore, I don't think it hit anyone.
Now it's
there we go.
Push him
Got
into it right there. You're going to get feared. You're going to get overpowered. You're going to get run through. Renegades just take down systematically everyone on SSG.
Really, really nicely done. They keep Inara parked on the objective, so they're just capturing away the whole time. Now look at this back on the horse. Leon gets in there. She goes for the touch, gets out as much damage as possible, but Midtow's already dead, and Vocal found a beautiful pick from the high ground. 2-2 is the scoreline. Thank goodness Space Station converted last rounds, or Renegades would have closed the game here with that. That was a very nicely constructed team fight.
And just being able to dance through, they get aggressive. They don't die there. Evie's been able to get in, cause so much trouble and just walk away. And that's, again, the staple, the bread and butter that Shadow is bringing to this team right now. It's just so clean on the EV side of things. But Viral right now on a 12 streak, like Undying, this Maldamba has been impactful in ways I don't think SSG ever could have thought.
Wide little headshot here from Freeze God as he attempts to hold the corner up to the high ground, rings Eevee's bell once, can't finish it up out of the ice block immediately, but one additional shot will do it. He's toying with the idea of jumping down here, but wise as he is, doesn't have the cooldowns to feel good about pushing it. Lets the Renegades escape for now. Barricade goes up, Commander's Grab comes through, Moonchopper unable to lock down Atlas. Freeze got up and over the wall. Viral's gonna need to Dread Serpent him to stay alive. It's a solo ult and an AoE team fight one that could have been utilized otherwise, but it keeps him alive and it keeps the Renegades chugging away.
Yeah, it keeps him alive and, like you said, keeps him moving. Moonchopper is able to get a couple kills. For Shadow, I want to say, is the big saving grace there, right? Viral can probably get that kill on the Buck without any help other than the Dread Serpent. The Leon follow-up is going to be the Shadow special. That's going to be the little special sauce on top to make sure that it has the right flavor. Everything's going well. And Renegades are about to walk this in. They still have a minute, but they don't need it.
Very close. Overpower finds Atlas. Somebody needs to slay Sadak, and Mitao will counter out Moonchopper with the time and space. Ice Storm dropped in the backline here. 50 seconds on the clock, but the Renegades ain't going to need it. They slam it home. And we're going all the way. Renegades take game 6 to force SSG the distance.
7, then 6, and now 7 again. We're coming through. Renegades are showing up in a way I actually don't think we've seen at this split, period. I think we saw them really solidly in week 1, but you could argue maybe Kanga weren't where they wanted to be. This is a team to look forward to for split 2 to me.
My goodness gracious. I mean, you just never know what Renegades is going to show up today, and I want to attribute this to the way they've kind of switched up the drafting style. They've really forced SSG onto some weirder picks. I mean, this is, you know, literally 1% pick rate type of stuff that we're seeing out of them, and it's just not cutting it.
I mean, I guess, yeah, at this point, these flanks that are coming through, like, they're not strong enough. Is, I guess, the best way to look at it. Like, and Droxus is something on this map that we've seen work in the past, and I maybe would have even preferred that over the Buck.
I don't know. Zin was right there in the meta as well, even more recent than Buck. We saw Alex have a couple of good games on it. If they're going to be forced that deep into the pool, we might need to see something else if SSG are going to swim. Right now, it's all tied up. Game 7. Let's get it back to the desk and get ready.
Unbelievable, man. We could have 3 sets today. We had 21 possible games. We are just about to go into picks and bans for game 20. That's a lot of lot of Paladins today.
What a day of Paladins. We thought on paper that set number 1 was going to be the set.
Sure.
And hats off to not only the Knights, but also not only the Renegades, I should say, but also the Knights.
True.
We thought 4-0, maybe 4-0, 4-1, and instead we got a 6-game set 2 and a 7-game now set 3, as well as a, of course, 7-game set number 1. It's the Buck pick that kind of stands out to me. Ares didn't really perform on the Leon. Freeze God, despite having the only truly positive kill death slash line on his side, it was just there were specific moments where he would pop the Buck wild and just get like a triple kill, especially specifically towards the end of that. Might have been push or defense. I guess it was the defensive end where, or no, it was the push, where they were able to pop the Buck wild, get the Genos buff onto him, and then he literally just ran crazy, and that netted him, 3 kills in that one. Other than that, he's, 5 and 6. It's just, he found the kills, he found the damage, but didn't have the guaranteed impact that you might look for in a different champ. And this is a map where there are some smaller corridors. He is, at the end of the day, a shotgun champion kind of in its truest form, where if you're able to barrel stuff somebody, you're gonna have a nice big reticle on your screen, you're gonna blow them up. But, from any sort of range, not so much. And you're going against an Eevee, a Cassie, 2 people who can play far away relatively safely, things start to tilt in your favor. So you look at the other game that Spacestation Gaming lost, and an interesting composition. They pull out some weirdness in the sky.
Right.
Doesn't work out. Both teams have, you go win-win or win-loss, depending on which side, and then you have win-win-win-win. I said you got to take it one game at a time, and they've done just that, and now this is the one game. Game 7.
Here on Jaguar Falls as well, Space Station their back's against the wall. All of a sudden, I mean, you're feeling good.
Yeah.
It's really, for me, I mean, did FRZ God do okay on the Buck? Sure.
Yeah.
8-6, whatever.
Yeah.
It's the fact that you had to take the Leon out of his hands, right?
Right.
And hand it over to Ares,
Absolutely.
where Freeze God did so well on that pick on Shattered Desert, and now he doesn't get it, and it all kind of falls apart. Also, don't forget, Spacestation got Atlas. Like, the pick.
No, you're right.
And Sadak just wasn't able to perform.
And the counter pick, of course, is the Khan, and if you look at just a purely utility basis, you know, Atlas has utility basically in everything in his kit. You know, Khan has, you know, a dash, a shield, the shout as well. Not so much CC, I guess is the word I'm looking for. So much more CC potential and you know, reversal and self-healing a little bit on the side of the Atlas. And then Khan is just kind of tried and true. I'm going to hold down left click. I'm going to throw you off of the map. And that's it. And that's all he needs to do. He does such a high amount of damage. And this is an interesting spot the Renegades are in because, you know, Torvald, Bakoa, those are banned out all the time anyway. Atlas, of course, gets banned here, but Drogos is where the Renegades go. So they open up Space Station to pick away the Khan. And while this is surprising, and it's also not, because the Renegades have said pretty much this entire set, okay, you pick the Khan, we'll pick the Ashe as a counter pick. So it's not so surprising to see them allowing Khan going through. But still, I mean, if these guys win, I don't know if they'll ask the question, but if they don't, I'll still talk to them. You know, why the Ashe priority over that of the Khan?
Right.
I'm sure they have a reasoning behind it. I mean, she's very strong as well. But, you know, time and time again, you would think that Khan would be a higher priority than the Ashe, but it hasn't been the case. But Barrack Ashe, very smart answer here. You might not get the Khan, but you're going to get the next two.
Yeah, I like this so far from
Form up and
Renegades. I
follow
mean,
me
this is
in.
basically shoehorning Space Station into either Fernando or Inara. They've kind of shown that they'd rather go Fernando at times so far, but could go for the Inara as well. But you could wait on those. I don't think Renegades are going to take either of those. Genos Maeve is what I'm thinking here.
The
I
gods are
mean,
watching.
Renegades have really
Our
tried to keep
blood
Maeve
is
out of
rushing,
Space Station's
and the
hands, but
hunt
instead
is
Tyra
on.
Could go
locked him right
Tyra
away.
Genos. They could if they wanted to.
Pray to
Gonna be
your
the Damba
gods.
instead. So
Interesting.
electing for just
Spirits
one of the
cannot.
healing amps, which is fine. You know, the trade-off with the Genos instead of the Damba is you get amplified damage, of course. Genos is a very good healer at the moment, but the Damba is such a higher throughput healer. You'll see very close damage numbers, but sort of in a different way, where Damba can splash heal, really control the point, whereas Genos, a lot of that healing goes on to your damage dealers. Very front-loaded. It'll help you win the fight right off the bat, but maybe won't pull things back. So there's definitely some give and take. I think picking the Damba is fine here. That's a very safe, a very normal pick.
Let's make
Renegades
this interesting.
are gonna give Pip another try. Didn't really work out the last time we saw it.
No, did not go well. That was on Bright Marsh, I believe, where they piloted that last.
Yep.
Definitely was not their best performance of today, but they're rolling hot now. They've won 2 in a row, so maybe going back to it is the right idea. I like the idea of taking that Moldamba away from Viral. I mean, he played so well
Yes,
on it
you're absolutely
last
correct.
game that maybe that's kind of the thought process there. You imagine
Absolutely.
the Renegades still need another healer. Genos could fit in nicely, I think, with what they've got so far, and you gotta get 60% of your healing or 70% from Genos, a little bit from Pip, but it's really that damage amp that you're
Yep.
looking for more than anything else.
Agreed. And that's a very good point you bring up, is that Viral is playing time and time again at a very, very high level. The Damba, one of his favorite healers. Haven't seen him so much on the Ying. Furia, I think, is a fine pick here. At the end of the day, there's lots to, you know, kind of look at on both sides. You know, of course, the Tyra,
I will
you know, the
fight to
hunting
protect
party,
the sanctity
Bomb
of the
King with a
wild.
high burst potential, and Nara Damba is a very good stack. But at the end of the day, in my eyes,
grumpy boy.
if Shadow on this Pip is able to perform the way a Pip can, I think the Renegades can win this third one
Wow.
straight. If it falls the same way that Bright Marsh did, you know, not so much. At the end of the day, you pick Pip not only for Evil Mojo, but because he can sort of 1v1 duel. The extra Moxie healing when you're beneath 50% health is massive. It makes him a duelist more than he is, you know, a healer. So if the Pip kind of falls flat, that means the enemy team is winning duels with Pip constantly, and that's just a numbers advantage. The Evil Mojos, they were hitting but not getting followed up on. You know, without putting too much pressure on them, I think this Pip, I don't think it loses the game for Renegades. I still
Sure.
think the rest of the team has the potential to kind of pick that up, but a good Pip can absolutely win the game.
Certainly a key factor if Renegades are going to succeed. They're looking for their final selection. It will be the Furia, so still brings that healing, but this is the pick that the Renegades went with on the Shattered Desert and really helped them win a lot of those big team fights. I mean, Renegades have a chance to pull out an insane upset against Spacestation Gaming. You think they're going to do it?
Yes. I don't know.
Nice confidence, Dave. I like where
I
your
don't know.
head's
I'm
at
scared.
right now.
I'm
Game
scared.
7 coming at you, our final game of this triple header today. Before we've got the catchers, we got Gormizer and the J.R. Smith, the Dolson's LeBron James. How's that for a white flag, Nicholas?
It's on, baby. It's on. I got all game and the last word to cook up a nice one to give it back to Aggro. Beautifully done. Way to set yourself up for failure, idiot. But anyway, these two drafts here in game number 7. I like it, but I definitely lean towards SSG. I think you've got Tyra, BK Khan on Jaguar Falls, and then one of the strongest point fight win conditions in Damba Nara that you could possibly draft.
Definitely a lot of strength. The only downside I would say is just looking at what Renegades have. Pip, depending on the evil mojos.
I know
Okay,
we've already seen it today,
if it's
though.
what we saw earlier,
I don't know.
then it's not going to work out. If it's completely different, I'm assuming Shadow playing it this time around. If he's kind of locked himself in, then I think it's going to be game-changing. But like you said, Spacestation, I actually don't think you could come up with a better draft for Jaguar Falls than what SSG have right here.
I don't know, man.
Like, maybe you could argue
I
Genos
kind of agree.
over Maldamba, but I don't think most players would take that. Like, I think they'd take this 10 times out of 10.
Yeah, I mean, the damage amp is still there even without the Genos, and Inara can really flourish. You know, this is one of her best maps as well. They have Bomb King on his best map, Inara on one of her damn best maps as well, but, you know, ruthless aggression. They do not let SSG get comfortable immediately in and onto the Tyra Ares. Dead in seconds.
And this is going to be a big thing. The one thing you can't count out right now is how the players are going to be feeling. SSG is going to be a little distraught. They were up 3-1 and now it's 3-3. And now they're not even winning the first point fight. Like, it's not even a confidence thing at this point. They have to play mechanically at their best,
Nice.
and they're just not in the mental place to do so.
Shadow just hit Rochelle for 420.
Nice.
Nice. 57 and climbing now. The Renegades off to the races here on Jaguar Falls. I don't know, we had a couple of Cavs references up on the desks, but it's SSG that's in danger of blowing the 3-1 lead at the moment. Shadow finds Rochelle, 93% for the Renegades. This is a squad that if they're gonna win this game, they need to win it, I think, pretty quickly here. The amount of overwhelming damage Spacestation can bring to the game later on is gonna be too much. I think Renegades, especially with Pip, need to focus on the early game. And so far, they've done that.
And been able to control it and keep everyone off the point. I mean, SSG, that Inara, like, it's very difficult to make Inara feel unsafe, and they've managed to do it. They've managed to lock her away and just keep her jailed off enough that you're able to, well, sit on the point and capture the entirety of it without worrying about her. But I don't know how long you can keep that up. It's very difficult to keep her locked down forever.
I think that Evo Mojo resulted in the kill on the Sadak. Ares shooting in the back of Invokal's head. And look at this, Mittal alive with a slither of HP as he's able to slither away to safety. Now the crossfire comes out, grabs one, grabs two. Ares surging forward on the Tyra. Down but not out. He was the first blood and probably under 10 seconds of actual combat. That's a brutal way to start the game, but he's got to keep his head up. He's got to keep his focus on the goal at hand, which is to just put away a damn game and finish this set, finish this day, get another win, get a win today. Yeah. They're in danger of losing both of their sets.
And the last two sets of the split as well. It's something that, even going into MSI, it's just not a good feeling. What a beautiful assert dominance, just up, down, land it, stun him out, and try to find some kills right here. It's going to be good for Mittal, it's going to be good for Freeze God, and it's going to be good for Sadak.
Nice stuff there. Shadow with 3. Shadow almost finds 4. Let's Hero grab the last tag. This Turret actually did that because he's way over there on the payload. Well struck there, Hero. Straight and true. 45 on the clock. Plenty of distance to go, though. The Renegades are probably going to have to do this in overtime if they want to grab it and get it done. Ultimate's available for either side. I'm looking at a couple of things here. I'm looking at a lot of sustain from Pip Fury, and I'm looking at double shielding frontliner from Ash Barrett. Does the Renegades, do they fall off super hard late game with this?
I think, from what we see, I think Ash will probably not, like, she's probably the one who will fall off the least next to Cassie. Shadow, it's kind of hit or miss. It depends on these evil mojos for me. I don't think I've seen anything crazy out of one, but right now his play, just in general, is phenomenal. SSG get fully wiped right there. And I think that's going to be a big testament to what they can do. I mean, you said, as long as they do it fast, I think it's going to be fine. And as items come online, I think it does tilt towards SSG. But they aren't going to have the credits for him if it keeps going at this rate.
Well, so far, no good. The Renegades get it through. The wall went up. SSG was almost there for the contest. But now they are just one round away from being defeated by the Detroit Renegades. They were up 3-1, but game after game after game, the Renegades stayed in it. Step after step, one foot in front of the other. They have found themselves back in a position to now win this set.
Mary's at a really good moment through here. A lot of damage. Wondering if maybe he didn't stop for that grenade launcher. Maybe something different happens, but he still gets the kill, and he still keeps himself going forward and saves his support in the process. But you don't get that moment every round, right? Like, so far, it's been very consistent from Shadow. Freeze God's 1 and 3, Ares is 4 and 3, but it's not convincing enough on the side of SSG to say that they are ahead in a fight. It also kind of depends on Rachao here.
Shadow goes into morale boost. That smells like they want to put this one away in this round. They want to get as many of these evil mojos up. They want to kill as many of SSG as they can. Look at this chopper. Is he slain in time? He will. Before the overpower fades away. A couple of kills for either side. It's still in favor of SSG. 2 for 1 at the end of the day. On to the objective now they go with comeback mechanic in hand. A lot of ultimates burn for the Renegades. They really don't have much to work with. SSG still have King Bomb, Dread Serpent, and Crossfire.
I mean, if you're going to be trying to turn as many people into chickens as possible, morale boost is going to be good. 25% on that charge back, but it's also just pure damage that's coming out from Shadow right now. Trying to get away. Moxie going to help him stay alive and top off. And that Crossfire is coming through, but there's no one to shoot.
There is no one to shoot. Buys him a little bit of the zone control here. Backline dive is coming through for Moonchopper, but responded to in kind. Rachao takes down Hero. The objective is the problem right now for the Renegades. That King Bomb rolls through, stuns 2, just crowd control right now from the backline. SSG do a great job at managing that team fight.
And being able to play that with comeback mechanic. Like, that's one of those moments that if Renegades get one more shot, if you don't quite have it fully captured, then maybe things start to slip away because you just used everything. They have comeback mechanic. They'll use everything every day if it means it's a guaranteed point with 2 minutes afterward to charge up ults left and right. And then Flame Pop right now just to try and get Renegades back into the game. You're going to get the nice charge back up on most of the other ultimates, and the Evil Mojo gets thrown out immediately.
There it is, and it will grab the kill. Moonchopper finds the final blow there. Rachao trying to walk down one. He's just fragged out in the backline. Freeze God weaseled his way to a kill, and Vocal meets his untimely death at the hands of the King. Long distance healing potion. Nice stuff there from Shadow. Showing a new and improved Pip on Brightmarsh. It was not great. Not great at all, but he is not shy about knowing what he can run and what he can succeed on. He's definitely showing us some chops here on the Volpine later on in the set.
I'd say it's kind of the same thing we saw with SSG earlier in Ruckus, where the first time around it was not something you wanted to see ever again. And the second time around, it's exactly what you expected out of it. This is what I'm expecting. Maybe even overperforming for my expectations for Shadow on this Pip, because he's just blowing it out of the park. He is making sure every single member of SSG is scared of him and is locked away from anywhere he might be standing and throwing his damage.
Oh, 105 on the clock for SSG to get this one off. To the races, back to the safety of his team. Sadak forced away and having a bit of a quiet game on Khan so far. Deep Fear for Midtow will land onto Barrick, sending him off to the left and opening up an avenue now with Barrick disconnected from the team a little bit. I think there's some room for them to maybe pick this guy off, but now back to the safety and the welcoming, loving arms of his teammates. Hero stays alive and survives that onslaught, but with that, no kills grabbed, but Spacestation still get a little bit of this payload pushed and are right at the doorstep of the Renegades.
30 seconds left to be able to push it through. They're in a good spot to be able to at least hold overtime. I'm not sure they're going to be able to push forward. Dome Shield being down is definitely going to open the door a lot further. And Renegades, that's 2 members gone.
His roll got caught on the door. It costed Invocal his life. He would have absolutely been out of that situation. Dear God, Double Wrecker starting to come online. That barricade barely had time to animate and say, I am here, before it was completely obliterated out of this map. Let's take a look at the items here as we are headed past that kind of 10-minute mark, starting to get into the later stages. Ares with the Wrecker 3 online, starting to transition into a Nimble.
And that's going to be good against Moonchopper, against Hero. It's going to stop Viral's bubbles from his heal being anywhere near as potent or effective, even though they're already relatively small. He's just burning them down on the side of Ares. And that's what you want Tyra to do. She is focused on killing the front lines, and so far she is, well, killing the front lines. Shadow's the only one with her spawn, and this is the biggest round. You have Freeze God going relatively even. You have Invocal going even. They're both 4, 4, and 6. It's Ares versus Shadow right now.
There it is. Overpower. Such a big ultimate. The throw is mitigated by resilience, but the death grab of 6 seconds is not. That's what they need to leverage here. That's how they need to grab this kill. So many ultimates to work with. Renegades, early map control going their way. Both teams afraid to make a mistake because they know what it could mean. The engage comes out from the Renegades. They've already found one. Evil Mojo, Enflame. They're throwing everything at the wall. They're going to see what sticks, and so far everything is sticking. Ares can't even get the kill in the back line. It's a 3-0 in favor of the Renegades.
I mean, 5 men down, and admittedly, no one's looking like they're going to be back in time. Inara looking to skirt around the side, might be able to touch because it took a little while to dismount her, but she chooses a poor path, and even with the King Bomb, I'm not sure they're going to be able to get back in time.
The wall goes up, they're trying. Seismic Crash can't find a home. King Bomb's rolling in, but won't be able to get there in time. Everything used by Space Station Gaming except for the Overpower and the Seismic Crash, and they're just not able to get there in time. Gore, I don't know why you don't lead with the Overpower and the Seismic Crash. Now you're just holding one of your, most powerful, unmitigatable ultimates. I don't know.
And admittedly, part of the reason they were able to win that last round so handily was they killed Moonchopper off immediately. They burned that Ashe literally the second they got vision on her. And now, yeah, you're finding a brief respite against the Renegades, but how well can you hold it? Are you going to push this to 3-3? And if you do, are you confident enough that you can hold the 3-3? Like, Renegades have been playing out of their minds these last 3 maps. So you're going to have to put way more effort into this. And now the Overpower is used. Should charge back, but...
I would have just overpowered Pip if I was Sadak,
Yeah.
man. This guy has the potential and did win the
nuisance.
team fight. Double Evil Mojo. They get the kill immediately while polymorphed onto one. Clean up the second. A little bit after, I think the polymorph had fallen off, but that's a kill nonetheless in hand. Such a difficult character to deal with. The Space Station have not heavily invested into resilience, and it kind of makes sense. I mean, Evil Mojo's really the biggest thing they're worried about, and it's kind of tough to buy or have everyone buy an item to really mitigate hard on a one item. It's nice for like Ashe knockbacks and stuns, but at the end of the day, it's really not worth the investment for them, and I still agree with the way they're building.
I mean, everything so far has been phenomenal. This is it's been a long day for these teams, but imagine being in SSG's shoes right now. They've played 2 competitive sets where both of them have gone 7 games. Like, it's draining on their side. And that's a conversation that we haven't gotten to have in a while, where it's just, where's that thin line disappear from energized and warmed up to tired because you've been here for so long. And it honestly feels like maybe they're starting to hit it. Renegades are starting to push them back further and further and win a lot harder in every engagement.
Well, 30 seconds, 20 now on the clock as Renegades finally get this push primed, ready to go. Game 7, ready to come back 3-1, upset Space Station Gaming, 5 ultimates strong. They have the tools at their disposal. Their moment is at hand. The question is, will the Renegades execute now, or will another heartbreaking loss against a potential hard upset come through for these guys that have given it their all today? Moonchopper the first to fall. Now they will not lose this game if they fail this push. Space Station Gaming still sitting at that 2-point mark. Need to get themselves to 4. Rashal finds Invocal. It's a 3-for-1 Gore. This one quietly goes in favor of Space Station Gaming, and we're coming down to the wire.
Well, it wouldn't be an SSG Game 7 if it wasn't 3-3 going 3-3 with match point on the line. Everything coming down to this last one. And there's just so much that can go right, so much that can go wrong. Renegades, they didn't need to use any ults. The same thing goes for SSG. Everything is available to everyone. This is going to be about as pure of a point fight as you can get in this game. I think it's all going to come down to whether, I mean, does Evil Mojo find something? Does 14, 4, and 10 Shadow make a big difference? Does Freeze God find a really big King Bomb? Like, everything is mechanics, everything is in-game, and you can't get more pure than that.
And Viral's the only one who's positive on this Renegade squad right now. Renegades are fixing to Na'Vi Space Station. In Game 7, Overpower misses. Sadak off the mark on one of the most important ultimates in this composition. The Inflame, the Fear, just to keep Moonchopper off the leash for a little while longer. SSG trying to manage this disengage right now, but the Renegades are in control.
I mean, they're doing literally everything in their power. Crossfire going to come through, melt these shields, but can it melt health bars? No, he dies. Instead, Shadow comes through, still has the Evil Mojo, knocks down, but Resilience paying dividends here for Sadak.
Big heal comes through. Renegades north of 60% now. Ultimate's coming back up 85% on Overpower. It could be a factor, ladies and gentlemen. Freeze God finds a big kill onto Invocal. Is this it? Is it the Renegades coming so close to the finish line and falling short once again? 90% for RNG. If they can just hold on a little while longer, maybe get a second wave of ultimates available, there is a good chance that they could take this game.
That morale boost is paying dividends on the other side, though, because 76% right now on that Evil Mojo. You get that, you get rid of Inara, and that is exactly what Shadow wants to do.
Another missed Overpower!
Bad position, and that's just opening the door wide open. SSG have set you up for success here.
Sadak gets a second chance and is unable to connect once again. 87, it is all tied up. Game 7, 3-3 on the point. Jaguar falls. Rochelle, the first to fall. The magical, mystical Evil Mojo is back up and available. Hits the first shot, hits the Evil Mojo. Sadak, this is your time. Tanking one shot, tanking two shots, buying time for his team. 2 for 1 on the objective. Viral with one last breath gives his team the Inflame, his last hope at the Renegades, claiming Game 7. Stunned out Sadak, fighting tooth and nail. The overtime resets.
Rochelle's going to be back on the point. Overtime going to be going down. It's going to reset once again. Invocal doing everything in his power to stay in this, but they're going to untouch. Someone touches down, but SSG are getting the fight.
Seismic crash. King Bomb coming to rip back through. SSG put the foot down in Game 7. Head and hands. They did not want it to be this difficult, but it's a W nonetheless. And the real story here is yet another just heart-wrenching loss for the Renegades. They've come so close so many times to defeating top-tier teams. But at the end of the day, again, it's that same sad story of nobody expected much from them today. There's nothing they can do this split to get to the MSI. There's nothing they can do to get out of dead last, but they came and they swung as hard as they could at SSG, and they damn near knocked them over.
They looked so damn good. It's disappointing here for them to not win, right? You push that to 7 and you don't close it out. I know exactly how they're feeling. I mean, Shadow has a little bit of a smile on his face, but I think everybody else on Renegades is kind of showcasing their emotions, and it is that strong disappointment right now.
It's not an easy way to go, and I hate to send it back to the desk on a negative note, but let's get it back up to Brad Marchand and Wayne Gretzky.
Man, you best be calling me Wayne Gretzky
yeah,
here,
don't worry.
fella.
I'll take Brad. I'll take Brad. It's okay.
You don't, but neither of us deserve Brad Marchand. Wow. Speaking of not deserved, you got to feel for Renegades here, man.
I'm devastated. I am devastated. I was pounding the desk, dude. I was so sad.
So do you think it's more so the Bruins loss that hurt you, or that this loss hurt you? Which one do you think, the Renegades loss or the Bruins loss?
They're comparable. They're comparable, I would say. I think the Bruins brought me so close, but
they were close.
It's the history. It's the history here that you have to look at.
They almost had week 1 and week 13, right?
Yeah, right. Week 1, day one, nearly their final. I'm devastated because honestly, that's what the Renegades have brought throughout the split. They've just been so close. SSG, they're a third ranked team in the league. Don't forget it. Spacestation Gaming they're so good. Spacestation are. And I don't know. I can barely find the words. I'm so sad right now. I told you, you live by the pip, you die by the pip. They nearly lived by the pip in this case.
17-5. I mean, Shadow does really well. The big point win that they get is off of his double Evil Mojo on the frontliners. They insta-kill one, isolate the other. They were playing really well. What went wrong in that final point fight, do you think?
I think it's hard to put something onto it. It's you throw all of the ultimates.
Sure.
Overpower missed twice.
I mean,
And
you got to win in that spot, right?
You have to, because the overpower is the only thing that was in it at the end. It was the in-between trades where the ultimates were fine for the Renegades. They get some value out of it, but then we're trading, I'm going to lose in Vocal and trade out for the Barrack on the opposite side. So it's like you're losing so much in some of these little end game trades that when it really came down to it, by the time, the dust was starting to settle, you had like a healer and a frontliner against like just a Pip trying to contest on the point. They didn't have the correct people alive when it really came down to it. Yeah, it's like, 1 for 1, 1 for 1, 1 for 1, but the way the chips fell is just, I'm going to have a healer and a frontliner to contest the point towards the end, and it just came down to that. I mean, that is so hard. That is
tough,
so
man.
hard. You
Especially,
fight that.
I mean, it's the 2 missed overpowers and a Tyra ultimate that does nothing.
It just went straight into a Barrack shield.
Right. It does nothing, and you think, this is the Renegades' time.
It was.
And they fall just short. Knocked off the horse, so to speak, there for the Renegades. Man, tough one. But as far as games that close out their first phase,
yes,
could be a lot worse, right?
The problem is this is one of those where, in the past, I would say, leave this with your heads up. I still think the Renegades need to, but there is a point where you can only come so close to winning so many times and still leave with your head up. You know what I mean? There's so much good to take away from this. You take one of the best 3 teams in the league. Well, I guess 4 technically. 9. I mean, everything is all knotted up there at the top. There's potential for ties on the board, which we can touch on that briefly. So Envy's done. Actually, no, I guess Space Station's done as well. So if Not a Sincere lose 4-0 to NIP tomorrow, they'll be 9-5 with a 13+ minus. So
Correct.
the first set of the day.
It's a big one.
If Na'Vi lose 4-0,
just got to get one.
Then they just need one to push themselves through.
Just one is all they need to make sure.
And then I didn't catch the plus minus on the Virtus Pro Kanga, but those 2 are very close in the standings as well. So that maybe has some standing implications, but what a tough way. What a tough day. Because I say, take it 1 game at a time. You win 1, you win 2. You're so close to 3. You got to hold your head up because that was a performance.
It really was. Impressive stuff from the Renegades, but it's Space Station Gaming who end up on top. Let's hear from them after their huge set victory up against the Renegades.
Well, guys, it comes down 3-3. It was like 93-93 the last time I looked at any of the percentages because a fight breaks out. Things are stressful, I'm sure, not only for us watching, but for you guys in the action. What was it like, just that last point fight, all of it? Like, what's going through your mind, and how stressful was it?
For me was, I have to get the point. I have to survive and get the point. That was basically it, yeah.
For me, like, I saw us losing the last meet. I don't know how we won that. I need to rewatch,
So, I mean, you were up 3-1 early on in that set, and then Renegades just come back. What happened? Like, were they just playing out of their minds? Were there mistakes? Like, what from your perspective was going wrong or right for them?
I think they are playing better every time. They're a team that evolve a lot from when they start, and we kind of just didn't keep that in mind. Like, which is okay. That's Renegades, but.
The draft got a little weird there down in the middle and towards the end of that set, having to pull out stuff like Buck and Leon. It's not it's a 1% pick rate character. Was that something that helped to kind of throw you guys off balance when they started to come back?
I don't think so because it's something that we used to train against, so we can use that as excuse for the losses we had. I think we just played bad and they took advantage of that, and that's PPL. You can't have a bad games. Otherwise, the other team will show up and win the matches.
Well, you got it done at the end of the day. Sadak, you don't seem super happy with it, but it's a win nonetheless. Guys, you showed up here for 3 best-of-7s. We gave you 20 of 21 possible games. You certainly got your money's worth today, but we've got 2 more games for you coming tomorrow. Same time, same place. Mixer.com/Paladins game. Thank you all so much for tuning in today, and we'll see you tomorrow. Brought to you by Evil Mojo, Hi-Res Studios, INAP, Respawn, SteelSeries, Alienware, and Skillshot.